Peruvian saxophonist and composer Diego Herrera.
I'm Shirley Leung, in for Marjorie Egan. In the second hour, we'll hear from Boston Medical Center's Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett on a new cancer vaccine from Moderna and what Trump's changes to the MMR vaccine mean for kids. Then it's Pina and Sean Ellis on their journeys from accused, convicted, and incarcerated men, maintaining their innocence and now living free. And we'll end the show with some letters from some in-the-news Americans, Natalie Harps and the mom of Pete Hegseth. It's all next on BPR, live from the BPO.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Linda Kenyon. The Supreme Court is expected to weigh in on whether President Trump can continue construction of his ballroom. NPR's Deepa Shivaram reports.
Millions of dollars have already been spent. The areas near the White House have been closed off for months because of the construction. So if the court says that Congress needs to come in and approve this, it's not like Congress moves at lightning speed either. Having an unfinished ballroom/military complex that completely raised over the old east wing of the White House, it's complicated. And the whole situation sort of speaks to Trump's decision-making process and how he treats the courts, because now the Supreme Court's kind of in an awkward position here.
A nonprofit group had sued the administration, saying congressional approval was needed for the ballroom construction. The president of Guatemala says his country has accepted more than 2,000 Mexican deportees from the United States this year. KJZZ's Nina Kravinsky reports from Hermosillo, Mexico.
Guatemalan President Bernardo Arévalo says the Mexican nationals deported there stayed in the country for less than 24 hours. It's not immediately clear why exactly the U.S. would deport Mexican nationals to Guatemala. Typically, third-country deportations occur when the country of origin has strained diplomatic relations with the U.S. and refuses to accept deportation flights. Mexico has accepted tens of thousands of its own citizens who have been deported since President Trump took office last year, as well as citizens from other countries. A DHS spokesperson said the Trump administration is utilizing all lawful options in its deportation strategy. For NPR News, I'm Nina Kravinsky in Hermosillo, Mexico.
Costco is planning to sell Medicare plans at its stores. The retailer will offer the health care coverage as part of a pilot program. NPR's Kristen Wright reports.
The Wall Street Journal reports Costco is partnering with a nonprofit health insurer called SCAN to sell Medicare Advantage plans and Medicare Supplement plans for adults 65 and older. The plans will be offered in Costco stores, through insurance agents, and online. Medicare Advantage and supplemental plans are run by private insurance companies, but some of them are dropping Medicare Advantage, leaving patients uncovered. Researchers at Johns Hopkins estimate 3 million Americans will lose coverage this year as a result. Costco is testing the program in 3 states. It hasn't said which ones or when. People won't need a Costco membership to sign up. Costco's plan still needs regulatory approval. Kristen Wright, NPR News, Washington.
The Defense Department's War Casualty Database reports the number of U.S. service members wounded since the start of the Iran war has reached 757. 18 service members have died since the U.S. launched the war against Iran on February 28th. The update includes 50 additional wounded soldiers and comes as talks aimed at ending the war remain at an impasse. You're listening to NPR.
Good morning from the GBH newsroom in Boston. I'm Craig LeMoult. State Senator Will Brownsberger and primary challenger Daniel Lander held a virtual debate on Thursday. As GBH's Amanda Keene reports, the legislature's productivity emerged as a key issue.
Lander is endorsed by Mayor Michelle Wu and previously worked for her. He pushed Brownsberger to explain why the legislature, in his view, is so slow at moving major bills. Brownsberger is the second highest ranking member of the Senate. He countered that he gets things done for the Boston, Cambridge, Watertown, and Belmont district.
I have done something big in every session that I've served, moving backwards. Most recently, our 2024 affordable housing package, I dragged that across the finish line on that same night that so many other bills went to die, the part that I had.
The primary is less than 2 weeks away. The winner advances to the November general election. Amanda Keene, GBH News.
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is celebrating a decision from the state's highest court to let renovations on Franklin Park's White Stadium continue. The project had been challenged by various groups and residents who argued it needed approval from the state legislature. But in its ruling this week, the Supreme Judicial Court disagreed. Wu says the court's decision affirms a vision the community largely supports.
And after 3 years of litigation, the path forward is now clear. We will continue construction and stay focused on what matters most, making White Stadium the best public school sports facility in the country and a space that will be open to community every day of the year to serve all of our needs.
The plan is for White Stadium to host Boston Legacy FC games and serve as a hub for Boston schools athletics. This is GBH.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Joyce Foundation, committed to advancing racial equity and economic mobility for the next generation in the Great Lakes region. Learn more at joycefdn.org. This is NPR.
Welcome to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I am Jim Browdy, and the Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung is sitting in for Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello, Shirley.
Hi, Jim. Actually, I'm standing.
You are, whatever you are. We're thrilled to have you. Programming note, we won't be here next week. It's the BPR summer break. We're back live on the air August 31st, back at the library on primary day, September 1st. I started today in a rare good mood for me. So with your permission, Jamie is nodding. I got to get something out of my system. It'll take 60 seconds, and then we'll get to the topic at hand. The lead story on NPR is about Trump going to the Supreme Court to find out if he can continue construction on his ballroom. That's his top priority. And then I look over Shirley's shoulder to CNN, and another story about Donald Trump. The Navy was about to name a carrier, a ship, after a black war hero. The guy's name was Doris Miller. Well, it turns out the ship may not be named after Doris Miller because the Navy is now trying to figure out how they can wriggle out of that and name it after that great war hero, Donald Trump. He is the smallest, most pathetic man, not just president, this country has ever seen. In any case, I'm done. Thank you. That was very helpful, too. All the signs are pointing to back-to-school season. This morning's chilly, wet, horrible weather. Wednesday, first starrowing of the season. You know what that means, where the truck ignores the car's only signs on Starrow Drive and gets wedged in the low-clearance overpass. The top opened like a fresh can of sardines. So we thought we'd open the lines this morning because we were in a good mood to get your thoughts on sending your kids out of the house this fall. The first day of class in K through 12. Dropping your kids off at college, or even facing the more permanent empty nest of your adult children moving out. There's great sadness for many in the changing relationship, even just watching your kid grow up and gain the independence they hopefully have, tying their own shoes, picking out their own clothes. You're leaving a relationship in the past in order to let them become themselves. And while the relationship will obviously evolve, maybe it'll change into something new and maybe even better. So come September 1st and whenever the kids actually move out, are you a parent who laments this transition in your life, or do you rejoice and revel in the empty nest, or is it a mix of the whole deal? 877-301-897. You know who wrote a great piece about this? Your colleague, Ivana Abraham, wrote, you're nodding knowingly. What did you think of that piece?
Oh, my goodness. I think a lot of us had lumps in our throat, reading it, and it's just...
Explain to people what she said for those who didn't see it.
So Yvonne Abraham, longtime columnist at the Globe, and I still remember when she was pregnant 18 years ago, and she talks about, I know her son is, she's about to drop him off at college. She might be... I think she's there right now,
country, yeah.
and dropping off in the Midwest. And she just writes about how everybody warns you when you have your first baby that it's going to go by fast. And so cherish every moment, cherish those first steps, the first time they, bite, eat solid food, right? First day of school. And her piece was about, she did that, right? But she forgot to cherish the last moments, the last time they held your hand, the last time they wanted to cuddle with you in bed, watch a movie. And my kids are teen, my youngest is 13, and I'm just going through that right now. They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to hear my voice. They don't want to see a movie with me, and so I'm going through that. And so all of the parents out there with little kids, remember those last times where they hold your hand.
Well, let me tell you, and for parents with big kids, both of my daughters are in their 30s. I mean, it is the Joni Mitchell, you don't know what you got till it's gone kind of thing. And you try to appreciate it in the way that Yvonne writes about, but you learn in retrospect you didn't appreciate it enough. Having said that, and it almost sounds, there's someone I work with who shall remain unnamed, that'd be Marjorie, who will honestly admit from time to time when her house has all three of her kids there and their partners or spouses or whatever, and as much as she loves them all, when they finally leave, it's exultation. And in that empty nesting thing, well, obviously a piece of it is sadness. Also, the freedom to do and afford things that you maybe couldn't is pretty wonderful in a lot of ways. You have that to look forward to, too. So we want to know about that experience. If your kids are youngish, like Shirley's, what's your anticipation? Are you living that Yvonne Abraham thing, trying to appreciate every single moment? If they've left, maybe even temporarily go to college, let us know what you think. And if it's a permanent goodbye, I don't mean goodbye, they're not talking to you, but a permanent goodbye, how is that? Hey, I learned an expression this morning too, Shirley. We talk about helicopter parents a lot, and I think it's one of the most damning, dangerous things for kids, for parents to hover over their children. In my opinion, it destroys their potential for independence and growth. You ever heard the term trailing parent? Do you know what it is?
No, I haven't heard that.
I read it this morning. Apparently, it's in vogue. A trailing parent, and we've talked about some of these people, so don't think it's made up, are people that leave their kids off at college, but they don't go home. They rent an apartment near the campus so they can be there to micromanage their little boy or girl.
Really?
Yes, trailing parents, they are called. And can you imagine a more suffocating behavior on the part of a parent to literally be around the corner?
All right, what if your son or daughter, what if they're in London or Paris? I think that's okay, right?
Visit them and then leave. I mean, by the way, fostering of independence is so incredibly important in my estimation. I understand the loneliness of the parent because I feel a lot myself, by the way. I miss my kids a lot, even though from time to time my younger one lives downstairs in the downstairs apartment, but that's only from time to time. But this trailing parent thing, if there are any of you out there who are honest enough to admit that you fall into that category, God, will we love to talk to you. 877-301-8970. Amy in Rhode Island, you're first with Shirley DeYoung and me. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
And to you.
I'm calling to just give my 2 cents about my triplets who are just left for 4th grade. They go to 4th grade in Virginia.
Okay.
So I can understand enjoying that maybe you can sleep in until you have to actually go to work. But I would say it's profoundly sad. The most important thing I would share, though, is make sure that those moments you spend with your kids, you're engaged, you're doing the activities, you're outside, you're doing the adventures so that when that stage ends, because I don't have a younger child to re-experience it with, you were there. You got all of that out of that moment. And even if you're sad, then you did it. You did it 100%.
Are you saying that regretfully, or are you saying that because you did that and it was good for you?
I'm saying that because that's my life, and it is very sad. Like I'm sad right now, but when I need to re-encourage myself, I look at how the kids are tying their shoes and doing flip turns in the pool, and then that will lift me up out of my sadness.
Good. That's pretty good.
And remind me that I'm doing the right thing as the parent. Just like you said, you've got to adapt to the new.
Hey, Amy,
reality.
I don't mean to pry, but why are the triplets going to Virginia for school?
Because they have school year with their father in Virginia.
Oh, okay. Was that hard?
Oh, incredibly.
Yeah. Well, you're an honest soul. That was a great start to the conversation. Good luck with the triplets. Can you imagine having triplets? Amy, thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, I especially I think when your kids are really young, maybe I don't know, 1 through 8 or 9, and it's so hectic, and you sometimes are like yelling at your kids, you're stressed out. But we just have to remember, like Amy said, like these are fleeting moments.
Okay, so let's talk about fleeting moments. We know we've talked to you a lot in the past. You've been really honest about I can say this because you said on the air, almost hoping, I'll say almost, that your kid loses in the basketball tournament.
Yes, I have said
so you don't have to go to another game. And you told me, we're talking about the Odyssey because we're going to talk to films with Odie Henderson from the Globe in a few minutes. You talked about how to get to the Odyssey. You had to drive one of your kids or somebody and two friends.
I drove 3 teen boys to Providence. But I felt that this was something he's going to remember. He and his friends remember that crazy time where they got tickets to see the Odyssey in 70 millimeter.
You like driving them in Providence?
My son, he organized his group of friends to go. They're out, it was a Friday afternoon. I could work from the Providence
You're
Mall.
not going to say to your husband in some Friday 3 years from now, I could be in the car driving 3 teenagers to Providence. Instead, I'm here having a glass of wine. I'm serious.
No, I thought it was.
You treasure them.
I treasure.
Well,
I do treasure.
good
I also appreciate that I can do that. I have the flexibility to do that. I can work from anywhere as long as I have a cell phone and a personal hotspot and a laptop. So, but it was great. They have great stories to tell, even though they didn't like the movie. We'll talk more about that later.
Here's an anonymous texter with a third kind of perspective. On the flip side, I lived near a major university, and the freshmen arrived Wednesday. Their kids are the problem for our lovely neighborhood. I've already had to 311 empty booze bottles on the sidewalk and thrown over the fence into our yard. Well, that's a happy listener. 877-301-8970. Lori in Boston. Hi.
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 My next door neighbor just packed off her youngest child to college, and she is sad. And I will not miss him because he was a little jerk.
You're my kind of woman, Lori. Does she know that's how you felt about him? Huh?
Oh my goodness, yes. I hope he does well. I hope he is enriched, and I hope she can be happier. But bye, boy, bye. I hope you have a lawyer.
Lori, why is he a jerk?
He's the youngest, which means he's the dumbest, and I've had to explain, if you can't be good, be smart. If you can't be smart, be good. And he was neither of those things.
Well, Lori, let me tell you, as I said, I shouldn't admit this, but you really are my kind of person. Lori, thank you for your call. I really appreciate it. That was a good one. Here's another anonymous texter. This is a perfect sort of split the baby, literally and figuratively thing. I've loved having my college kids home for the summer since May. I'm looking forward to them going back. I haven't enjoyed a bath since May, as the tub is in their bathroom and they are gross. I'll miss them when they go back, but yeah, distance makes the heart grow fond. I think that's an honest picture of a typical parent. It's great to have them, and it's sort of great when you don't have them, even though the permanent departure, when they actually move out for real life, is tough.
So, Jim, I was telling you earlier that, Yvonne is I'm part of a text chain at the Globe.
Oh, you told me this.
Yes,
yeah.
of, moms, and I think 2 of us have, youngish kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the others, actually 3 of us have youngest kids. 2 people on the text chain, including Yvonne, are sending kids to college for the first time. 2 are empty nesters. And so the empty nesters chimed in and said, you're going to love this next phase. Yes, you're sad at first, but your adult children, you start a whole new relationship with them, and it's fun too. And I think one mom was on vacation with her adult children right now. And so, you must have found that out, right?
we go places with the kids when they're available. Sometimes they have their own stuff.
Do your kids still want to hang out? Do they want to hang
out
with you?
Well, they're in their 30s, so it's not that phase like you're dealing with teenagers when they don't even want to tell anybody they're related to you.
Yeah.
It's it's like an adult thing. I mean, they are your kids, but it's actually, in fact, it's funny you say that because I often have an experience. Well, my younger daughter lives much closer, mostly in Rhode Island. My older daughter is a little bit south of Albany. And so I get to spend more time with my younger daughter. And there's sometimes I spend time with her, and I'm conscious in the middle of it about what a totally different but wonderful relationship. It's like 2 adults. I mean, obviously you're still my kid, but it's like 2 adults talking about the world or Trump or having a drink or what. It's really quite wonderful. And then you remember the little thing that grew in. It's really quite a beautiful thing. Having said that, there are times, no one should deny this. If you love them, and hopefully they love you, there are times when it's really, really hard, even when they're in their 30s. Edith in Amesbury, hi.
Hi. Oh, I'm glad I got through.
Do you hate the next door neighbor's kid too, or no? No, you don't. Okay, go ahead.
No comment.
No, neither of them have kids at home. But
Okay.
I wanted to say just what you just said, Jim. When my two sons were little, I worried about them going off to kindergarten. I worried about them going off to college. I worried about the teen years. I never, ever predicted that I would love having a relationship with them as adult children. And now they're 37 and 40, and they're both fathers, which is incredibly rich. I'm finally a grandmother at 73. But, they love spending time with me. I get along with their wives. I adore having their children, but just that relationship of adults, it's so rich, and I had no idea when they were young. Nobody told me.
Well, by the way, Marjorie's experiencing a similar thing. She's got a kid with two children, so she's a grandmother twice. Am I allowed to say? I think there may be another one on the way, and another one of her. She's having the same sort of experience, and they're adults, and same sort of deal, mid-30s, 40. It's great. That was a great call, Edith. Thank you very much for it. Anonymous texter, what are the ethics? This is an easy one. Around still tracking your child's location with a phone when they move out to go to college or an apartment. Some of my friends do that to their over 18 kids. I mean, I am speechless when I hear it. I just cannot believe people treat young adults like that. Obviously, you worry about them like you worry about, but I mean, really, what kind of sickness is that? Here's Busy on YouTube. He posts, I'm a childless cat person, so I'm sitting this one out. Another anonymous texter, I told my kids the last one that moves out takes your mother. Where do you want to go next, Shirley?
Let's go to Davida in Vermont.
Hi, Davida.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hi. I love listening to these type of programs when people talk about their time with their children.
Yeah, me too.
We had one kid and tried to raise him to be independent, happy, kind, and trust himself. So when he graduated high school, he chose to go as far away from Massachusetts as he could to college. So we did a short road trip to Washington State to take him to college, and we dubbed it the Farewell to Childhood Tour, and left him behind, happy and sad that he was ready to be on his own and be free and happy, and he still is. And we were sad for a very short time that he was so far away, but we loved walking by his room and seeing it never needing to be cleaned again. So it was great.
Davida, did your kid go to Washington State so that to be as far away from you as possible?
Well, first of all, no, I hope not. No,
Okay.
First of all, it was Evergreen State, and he wanted to go far away because he wanted to get out of Central Mass where he grew up and be in a more free and open environment. And he's always been that way, and he lived in Washington, Seattle, and then Memphis, and we see each other rarely, but we talk a lot. We have a great relationship, and he's independent and happy.
That's good. Another good one. Davida, thanks. Pamela texts and says, my son just graduated and moved home because he has 2 years of grad school to get through. I love him, but I'm ready to sell him to the highest bidder. It's really hard. It's a good line. It's hard for them to readjust after 4 years of independence, and I'm going bonkers. So there you go. Why don't we take another one, Shirley?
All right, let's hear from Marie in Shrewsbury.
Hello, Marie.
Hi, good morning.
And to you.
So I have 3 adult kids, and everybody got married in the last 4 years. And we have a blast, the 8 of us. They're in their 30s, and we started traveling. And we did a family trip to Ireland in September. We're going to Spain next year. We've done Italy. And they are the best people in the world. They're like... And we're not hovering parents. We're not involved in their lives, daily lives. We don't call them; they call us. But we all love hanging out together. It's like become a thing, which I never would have imagined in those college years. Like, never would have imagined it.
Why do you say that? Why do you say you never would have imagined it?
Well, because they did all the college, they went away, didn't, right? They really worked on separating, and there was all the typical family drama, you know what I mean? The 20s are tough and whatever, but now they're all, and they get together on their own, and they travel together on their own. It's just really, really a nice time in life.
Well, these are pretty
they do all the planning for the, I'm sorry, what?
No, these are beautiful phone calls, actually. Well,
right.
I'm sorry, Marie, you were mid-thought. My apologies. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, now we've transitioned because the kids do all the planning for the trips, and my husband and I simply pack up suitcases and say, what time are we getting on a plane, and where are we eating tonight? And they did it Ireland, and it was our 40th anniversary, and they just did everything. We just kind of follow along, and it's phenomenal.
That's great, Marie.
I was going to say, I think what you're describing, Marie, is kind of a real role reversal, right? The relationship has evolved between, being a parent and a child to more being, more peers, right, and more friends. And now your kids are kind of probably more like parents, right, to you, or caretakers or something, or taking care of you. I've been traveling with my mom.
I forgot.
Yeah,
That's
the
right.
last
Alaska.
vacations.
Yeah,
we were in Alaska a couple weeks ago. We were in the Caribbean last year, and it's actually really fun to bring my kids along and to travel, with their grandmother. And
why do you bring her along?
Well,
or why does she?
She loves to travel. I mean, she travels all over the world without us, and so I'm like, well, once a year, travel with us, and so and it's a way for her to, see the world with. I mean, we did this when we were young too. We traveled to Asia to visit my grandparents there, and it was just some of the, biggest memories from my childhood. So I'm hoping that we're creating the same memories with my children right now.
I don't know if Zoe, our coworker, knows something that I don't know, but she just sent us a note too. She says, this is very deep. You enter this world in diapers, you leave this world in diapers at the Villages with your longtime producers, human printers, printing stuff out for you along the way. It's really beautiful. We're going to talk about the human printer, Natalie Harp, at the end of the show today, by the way. Do we have time for one more? We don't. We can read a text. Anonymous texter, when I dropped my younger daughter at college in 96, I wanted to secretly trail her, but my older daughter refused to let me. That's pretty good kind of thing. These are really, with the exception of that one woman who was the one I related to best, saying that she hated the neighbor's son and thank God he was gone. These are really sort of beautiful stories about beautiful families. I hope
well, it's that time of year, I mean, all my sources are dropping their kids off at college.
Is
like,
that
can
true?
you talk?
Oh,
yes,
that's great.
Can you talk? No, I'm in.
That's great.
I'm here dropping off somebody in college. I think what is it? Chuck Todd, right? He wasn't on.
Oh,
this
Chuck
week.
was supposed to be on today. Chuck's dropping his kid off at college day, right? Is that what you said, Jamie? That's right. I forgot. Okay, Shirley, do your thing.
All right, we're out of time. Thanks for your calls and texts. Coming up after this quick break, Boston Globe film critic Odie Henderson. I'm Shirley Leung, in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This year, we're getting to know each of the 26 gateway cities in Massachusetts, calling it 26 and 26. I'm Trajan Warren, and if you're in Chelsea, Everett, Lowell, Barnstable, New Bedford, or Fall River, I want to hear from you. What issues matter most? What concerns do you have? What are you proud about in your neighborhood? Reach out to me. Visit gbhnews.org/gateway cities and fill out our questionnaire. That's gbhnews.org/gateway cities.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And the Cambridge Homes, a nonprofit independent and assisted living residence with a tradition of service, working with Cambridge area seniors for more than 130 years. Learn more at thecambridgehomes.org/tradition. And the Museum of Science. From live science demonstrations to hands-on exhibits, families can explore the wonders of Earth's evolution and the frontiers of space this summer. Learn more at mos.org.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy. Marjorie has the day, well, she has the week off. Shirley Leung is sitting in for her. Shirley, of course, a great business columnist at the Boston Globe. And we should say the great Power Play newsletter, too, which I totally love, and so does Marjorie. We're live from the library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I want to say in the second hour, Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett is going to join us just after noon and talk about this huge potential breakthrough at Moderna with this cancer. They don't call it vaccine because people don't like to say the word vaccine with Trump as president. Therapy, they call it. And then after the doctor, we'll talk to two men, Sean Ellis, they'll be here, and Stephen Pina, who between them have spent 50 years in prison for crimes they did not commit. We're going to talk to them about life after. But now we're joined at the library by Boston Globe film critic Odie Henderson. Odie's the author of Black Caesars and Foxy Cleopatras, a history of blaxploitation cinema. Odie, it's great to see you. Welcome.
It's great to be back.
Hi, Odie. All right, we're going to talk movies. This will be really fun. So before we get into some of the summer's big blockbusters, Jim and I want to first talk about some of the smaller films you've reviewed. And both Jim and I love the documentary Cookie Queens.
We haven't seen it.
We haven't
we
seen
love
it.
The concept
we love the concept of it. So tell us about Cookie Queens.
We need a mic. Keep talking.
Okay.
There you are.
Cookie Queens is about Girl Scouts, 4 Girl Scouts selling cookies during the season of Girl Scout cookie selling season. There's 4 of them: Shannon, Elizabeth, Ara, Olive, and Nikki. And you just follow them through their season with their parents, who sometimes are interesting in terms of how they push the kids to sell these cookies. Now, I love Girl Scout cookies, and I'm a sucker, so after the movie, I bought $60 worth of Girl Scout cookies.
Wow.
And
which one's your favorite? Wait, which one's your favorite?
Everybody likes Thin Mints. Everybody loves Thin Mints. Come on.
I actually like the shortbread cookies. I like
they're
my
good.
coffee
They're
and my
good,
tea.
Oh, yeah.
And so they've been sneaking these anti-corporate messages into kids' movies, and I'm here for it. Coyote vs. Acme is another movie where there's an anti-corporate message in it. And there was one here. One of the Girl Scouts discovers that all the money she made for the Girl Scouts organization, and she was not seeing very much of it, and she wasn't very happy about that. So I found it to be fascinating. It's a great documentary. It's great for kids to watch if you want to give them their first documentary. If you like Girl Scout cookies as I do, you will buy more when it's over.
Before you leave this, how old is the kid who came to the realization that she may be getting the short end of the stick?
12, and she had sold she made $200,000 for the Girl Scout cookie organization.
Wow.
200 over what period of time?
She was the #1 seller in like America for like 5-6 years. She would be on television. She was basically making them an ungodly amount of money, and she was seeing very little of it. So she said, we got an issue.
So we're talking to Odie Henderson from the Boston Globe. Another movie that neither of us had heard of before we get to the big ones is Camp Miasma. Is that how you pronounce it?
Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma.
Okay,
yes.
you describe it. By the way, I was drawn to it for 2 reasons, I should say up front. One, because both of the stars are among my favorite actors. You'll tell us who they are in a second. But what I really want to get to in a second is I've always wanted to meet someone I respect who actually likes slasher movies, and you do, and I don't get it, but let's get to that in a minute. Tell us about the movie first.
So this is the next movie by Jane Schoenberg, who made I Saw the TV Glow, and they decided to take a slasher movie look at a kind of a sexual awakening, because slasher movies always have the final girl, who's the one who didn't have sex, who survives, and always very sex negative. So this is a very sex positive look at it. But it is also a very gory slasher movie. Now, I love slasher movies because they were forbidden. You know, they were rated R, and we would sneak into them when I was a kid. And I love horror movies. I love gory things. People know at the paper that I like the red stuff. So it doesn't bother me that there's, decapitations and eviscerations all over this movie. But
do you do like this at those things, or
no.
do you actually watch it?
Oh, no. I'm like, if I could only wake my eyes wider, I'd...
And what do you think that is, by the way? Other than the fact that it's prohibited for a kid, so you're sneaking past that prohibition, what's the allure of these gross kinds of things on a screen?
Because I know it's fake. See, if you don't show it to me, it's worse. Because my brain will conjure up something that's 10 times worse than anything you can ever see on the screen. So show it to me. I'm fine with it. I don't know. I think I just have a strong tolerance for it.
But I feel like when you watch slasher movies, there's like two kinds. Ones that are way over the top,
Right.
and it's just fun to watch. But then others are kind of scary and gory, right?
Well, I think they're all gory and they're all over the top. This is beyond over the top. There's geysers of blood. It becomes ridiculous. It stops being gross and becomes surreal.
But that's something that I think I could watch. I don't like slasher movies, but I think I could get into this one.
Yeah, this is just not realistic at all.
Would you consider Squid Game a slasher movie?
I think Squid Game is kind of because you're picking off people. And that's what a slasher movie is. It's almost like in the Agatha Christie and then there were none. You're just killing everybody until there's one person left.
You know, I watched it was 10 of them or whatever it was, actually both seasons with my younger daughter who I was talking about before. And the reason I was able to do that is it's so stylistic, the killings, and there are many killings.
Right.
They're incessant killings, but not real-ish, and that I can handle. Can we get back to the film, though? Tell us about the two actors who lead this thing, who are both great.
You have Hannah Einbender from Hacks, and you have Gillian Anderson, who you know where she's from.
The best.
And they're both, and then Gillian Anderson has this ridiculously over-the-top Southern accent that is just incredible and it's awesome. And she is the final girl from the first Camp Miasma movie. And Hannah is trying to make a remake of the first movie, trying to get the final girl to come back. You know, all these nostalgia movies, bringing back Neve Campbell to Scream and so on. They're trying to take the same kind of angle. And so she goes to her house, and she's like a Norma Desmond-y kind of figure, living at the camp from the first movie. And it just goes from there.
So before we leave the topic, if someone has been slasher movie averse like I am, and you say dip your toe into it, what's the one you would start the person off with?
Oh, God.
And why?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
The first one.
Well, that's a really famous one, obviously. Have
You
you
know,
seen that?
Probably a long, long time ago.
Really?
But you know, okay, where do you put Sinners?
Well, Sinners isn't a slasher movie. It's a vampire kind of almost drama.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a horror movie to be sure, but it's not. It
So
doesn't
it's
have any
horror,
slasher.
not slasher.
Right.
Yeah, I could watch. I like Sinners a lot. I could
do
watch
too.
that. I could watch that one. So, but I feel like this slasher movie I could get into if it's so over the top.
Yeah, it's just beyond over the top.
That's what I
mean,
like.
there's a one or two Counting Crows along December where the slasher just basically kills like 50 people, and it's in a one shot. So basically it's on no cuts. And it's ridiculous, but it's incredible.
Well, that's one man's opinion. Well, that's what you're paid for. Okay, let's go to the two of the hottest ones. Here's Odyssey. It's a clip from the beginning of the Odyssey when Odysseus, obviously the local boy, Matt Damon, makes a decision that kicks off his doomed journey home. This is courtesy. We got this from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon on NBC. Here it is.
We'll raise the sail, follow the southerly winds.
Yes, sir.
Agamemnon's rowing west on the known provisions route.
He's got more mouths to feed. We'll find places to land.
Are you sure it's a risk?
I've followed Agamemnon long enough. With a little luck and the right winds, we'll see some of the world, still be home before Agamemnon.
That is the dullest clip in the history of movies. The dullest. So I saw Lawrence of Arabia about 80 years ago. Is that enough? Do I have to see this? I mean, it's a variation on a theme.
Between Lawrence of Arabia and
yeah,
Odyssey?
the spectacle. It's an epic. Yeah, I am.
Well, no, I mean, I said in my review that he was trying to bring back the Cecil B. DeMille era of spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
At the screening that I went to, the critic screening, there was a giant 2-story high Trojan horse outside of the theater. It was so big it took up 2 lanes of New York traffic, which, of course, New Yorkers were not happy about. So he's trying to bring back spectacle, and I think when he's doing spectacle, it works. But he's too self-serious, and I think the movie falls apart because it is so self-serious that it becomes like a dead weight. And I think that's a problem with a lot of these movies. They don't, Cecil B. DeMille, he wanted to, in order to sneak sex into these movies, he made these biblical epics. And they're fun because you see what he's actually doing, whereas Nolan is just dead serious. And, you left out the part where Matt Damon, the sirens are giving him Dunkin' Donuts. That's why he's trying to jump off the boat. So.
Why? Did you see it in IMAX, by the way?
I did.
And it's hard to find in IMAX, right?
Well, the craziness about it, I wrote an article, don't fall for the Odyssey okey doke. And you don't need to see it in IMAX 70mm. Yesterday, Dune tickets went on sale in Providence and in New York, where you can see it IMAX 70mm. And it was like Thunderdome. This is not necessary.
That's
So
what I
why-
tried to tell my teenagers. Like
The
do
ones you
really,
took to
Yeah, so I
Providence.
drove my son and his two friends. I mean, they're 15-year-olds to Providence Mall and the tickets were hard to come by. And they were sold out. They had to sit in the front row. I was like, "Are you sure it's really worth it? Can't we just do something here in Boston?" And they insisted. I said, "Fine, we'll do it." But you don't think it was worth it?
Well, no, I don't think you need to see it. I mean, you shouldn't watch it on your phone. I mean, I have to draw the line there. But, if you want to see it, you can. But I was talking to someone, they were arguing that, well, I haven't seen it and it's been weeks. I'm like, well, it's playing at 50 theaters here in New York. Like, well, no, I have to see it in IMAX 70 millimeter. I'm like, no, you don't.
But
so
you
could
see
you explain?
normal,
Wait,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Could you explain? So I understand. Like I think the two biggest grossing films of the summer, correct me if I'm wrong, are Spider-Man, which you also didn't like, and The Odyssey. I understand why people go to Spider-Man. It's not my cup of tea, but I understand the allure.
Right.
Why was The Odyssey why has it been such a huge success? I mean, obviously Matt Damon's a big deal, Anne Hathaway's a big deal, but not that big a deal for $1.3 billion or whatever it is. Why is it so successful?
Because for a year, they've been pimping you to go see The Odyssey.
So great
A
marketing.
year ago, they started selling tickets for this movie before it was even done. So that was part of it. And then people they want to see a big spectacle movie. They liked Oppenheimer, and they liked Nolan. So that's one of the reasons why the draw of Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway, the whole controversy about Lupita Nyong'o and the diversity of casting, and they didn't even use her properly in that movie.
What do you mean by that?
She does just like 2 scenes. And I was disappointed because I love Lupita Nyong'o. I mean, who doesn't? Well, I know who doesn't, but it just didn't. I mean, all this hype is what it was.
Can we bring up a topic that I brought up with you in the past? I know people get tired of this, but it's one of my many unshakable obsessions. Who wants to go to a 3-hour movie?
The last line of my review of The Odyssey is that I was happy that I could go to the John when the movie was over. I don't. They were doing these 70 millimeter things in New York, and they were doing them here at the Brattle. And a lot of these movies, like Lawrence of Arabia, have intermissions.
They did, yeah.
And so the intermission is not just for you to go to the bathroom; it's also for you to think about the movie, to talk about it amongst your friends or your audience
That's a wonderful
members.
point, actually.
And so the fact that they don't have an intermission, and the reason why they don't is they said, well, if we give you 15 minutes, we can't run the movie again. So I timed it out. They had 4 screenings of The Odyssey, which is 3 hours long. And an intermission is 15 minutes. So most you get 45 minutes back. You can't cram another Odyssey screening in there. So it's agreed. If they had intermissions, I think people would be more happy to sit through a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, I'm more happy, not happy enough. We're talking to Odie Henderson from the Globe. We only have time for one more, Shirley, so pick the one you want to talk about the most.
Yeah, let's talk about this piece you did about films mixing, cartoons, animation, and humans. I mean, there's a film coming out this summer. Is it out already, the Coyote film?
Next week. It comes out Friday.
Yeah,
Next
I'm
Friday.
actually excited to watch that.
It's fantastic. I've seen it twice. It's fantastic.
Yeah, tell us about that movie.
So Coyote vs. Acme was a movie that was made 3 years ago, and then David Zaslav decided he was going to shelve it for the tax write-off. After the fact that it had actually screened very well. It wasn't like a movie that was bad. It had very good scores from test screenings, and he decided for the money to just shelve it. And then fans and people got really angry about this. They started to protest, and it got bigger and bigger, and to the point where a company called Catch Up Entertainment, who had just done a movie called The Day the Earth Blew Up, and a Looney Tunes fully animated film, decided to buy it. And that's why it's coming out. And it's worth seeing. I mean, it's great. It's one of the best movies of the year. I'll say it. My review doesn't run until Friday, but it is. I enjoyed it. And I love Looney Tunes, so take that with a small grain of salt. But I also didn't like Space Jam. So it's not like I love Looney Tunes so blindly that I can't say a movie is bad. Space Jam, the second one, was the worst movie of 2021.
But you also, I don't know if you said it was the best ever, but for someone who's seen very few human cartoon combos in movies, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is just a spectacular movie.
That'll never happen again, where everybody's IP got together and was in a movie, and they were using technology from the 80s. Keep in mind, a lot of these movies that I mentioned were using what we would consider primitive technology. And actually, the movies look better than a lot of the stuff they're doing now. So Bob Hoskins, who got robbed of any kind of Oscar consideration or award consideration for this movie, a lot of things he had to do to make the tunes look like they were in the frame with him were very, very interesting acting choices.
What's your favorite thing you've seen this summer?
Oh, wow. I mean, I love Coyote vs. Acme. I thought I liked Disclosure Day.
You liked Disclosure Day?
I loved it. I gave it 4 stars.
Really?
Blue Heron, which is a dark film that I really, really liked. Project Hail Mary, which surprised me because I'm not a science fiction person at all. And there's a documentary coming up called Once Upon a Time in Harlem, which is just fantastic.
I did see Project Hail Mary. I really enjoyed that.
I was surprised.
Totally surprised.
Yeah.
We only have a minute plus left. Two films, I'm guessing you saw both. I know you saw one where we've had either a director or a creator on. First of all, did you see the Mary Oliver film?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
I really liked it. And it's a Providence's year this year because you have that and Tony giving these old 70s era Providence views. So
Provincetown.
Provincetown, sorry. Provincetown. Sorry about that, folks.
And speaking of that, we had a creator of Tony on yesterday, which Margie and I were lucky enough to see with Hannah, our colleague. We ended up going to one of those screenings that A24 did with restaurant owners.
I did too.
Oh, you were there?
And I was in the New York.
Oh, we were the one in Boston. I love that. Oh, you wrote. I love that experience. What do you think of Tony?
Well, I liked it because as a biopic goes, it doesn't fall into any of the traps that Walk Hard set for every biopic that's come after Walk Hard.
What's the trap that they
there's so many of them. We don't have time.
Give me one or two.
The wrong kid died.
Okay, that's good enough. Hey, Odie, it's great to see you. It's great to have you in Boston. Be well, and we'll talk to you soon.
One last thing.
Oh, yeah.
Lori, the caller that was on earlier, girl, come sit next to me.
Lori, if you just tuned in, was the woman who said she was thrilled because she hated the child of her next-door neighbor, and he finally moved off to college. Odie, you and I and Lori are in the same spot. Good to see you. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, everybody.
Odie Henderson.
We've been speaking to Boston Globe film critic Odie Henderson. He's also the author of Black Caesars and Foxy Cleopatras, a history of black exploitation cinema. Thanks, Odie. Coming up after this quick break, it's Live Music Friday, courtesy of Peruvian saxophonist and composer Diego Herrera. I'm Shirley Leung, in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Tune into The Culture Show for daily discourse on the arts and culture scene, and join us for what is a continuous conversation about the state of the arts with the most interesting thinkers, innovators, and creators in the region and beyond. From the poets to the painters to the power brokers who hold the purse strings. It's all here on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you. And M. Steinert & Sons Pianos, the region's authorized Steinway dealer, presents the return of the Symphony Hall Piano Event, Friday, September 11th through Sunday the 13th at Symphony Hall, msteinert.com. And Heights Crossing, an assisted living and memory support community offering residents experiences aimed at promoting independence, inspiring curiosity, and encouraging connection with others. More at heightscrossing.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Shirley Leung from the Globe is sitting in for Marjorie as the week off. I'm Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We will not be here next week. It's a week where we shut down at the end of the summer. We'll be back live on the air on August 31st and back at the library live on September 1st, which is primary day. Better start voting. Time now for Live Music Friday with Diego Herrera, a Peruvian saxophonist and composer known for blending Latin music with contemporary R&B styles. His latest EP, Digital Nature, was released earlier this year while he was finishing up his studies at Berkeley. He then went on a sold-out tour across Peru, where he led master classes and community events based around his shows and recorded his experience for social media, accumulating millions of views online. He'll be performing with his bandmates right here at the BPL as part of the Concerts in the Courtyard series in Berkeley's Summer in the City series. It's next Wednesday, 6 p.m. right here at the library in the beautiful, incredible courtyard. For more information, just Google Diego Herrera and you'll find all the social media platforms. We'll talk to him about it all in a minute. But first, let's hear some original music by Herrera and his bandmates. Gentlemen, it's great to have you. Welcome. Diego Herrera, come join us. That was fabulous, gentlemen.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
My favorite instrument too, which happens to be the saxophone. Welcome, that was terrific. Good to meet you.
Wait for his microphone. Diego.
Hello, hello.
Welcome,
hello.
welcome
Hello, Shirley.
to
Hello, Jim.
Yeah,
Hey,
welcome.
Pleasure.
Welcome to BPL. So tell us about
Well,
your.
first,
yeah, it's good.
Oh.
Tell us about your band because it's not just you.
No, it's
You've
not
got
me.
a whole crew here, and I'm particularly interested in the guy playing drums. You know,
Yeah,
when
the
I
cajon.
first saw on YouTube, I was like, "What is he doing? Is he playing on a speaker?" Because it doesn't look like a drum. I'm thinking it's not a drum set. Like,
Yeah,
what
it's
is it?
not.
What is he playing?
So he's playing the Peruvian cajon. It's an Afro-Peruvian instrument that goes all the way back from the 1980s.
Yeah.
Sorry, the 1800s.
Yeah.
And he's playing an Afro-Peruvian. This is an instrument made by the slaves that were brought from Africa to Peru,
Right.
and they were working in the farms in the coast of Peru.
Yeah.
And when they're having like their weekends or the days off working in these farms, they started playing music, right? They started playing the Afro-Peruvian sounds, and they were starting coming up with these rhythms like festejo, which is what we just played right now. And they invented one of the most versatile instruments in the world, which is called the cajon, and it's right there.
He
and
sits
Miguel
on
Morales,
it, and it looks like he's just playing on a speaker.
it is literally a box.
Yeah.
It's like a wardrobe, you know. And that they started like playing that, and they started like putting some acoustic things, and they started developing over the years. But it's an instrument that is used all like in many genres from rock.
Who are these guys?
Yeah, who are your guys?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, in the cajon is my dear friend Miguel Morales Lavado.
That's great.
And he's an incredible percussion player from Berkeley. He just graduated with me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the guitar we have Tommy Creighton.
Hey.
From Philadelphia.
Oh.
Insane guitar player, probably one of the best guitar players that I've ever played with.
Oh,
and
wow.
then on keys we have Joaquin Barbosa from Lima, Peru. And he's not only a keyboard player, he's my producer. And we're working in my new album with him.
Oh, that's great.
You know, you're not only a great musician and composer. When I read about this whole deal that you did back in Peru, was it December and January?
Yes.
I mean, you're an organizer in addition to everything else. Explain the whole thing that you did there and how you created, how you funded this thing, what you did while it was sold out for 2 months. What was the whole deal?
Well, first of all, I couldn't have done it by myself. I have a whole team in my back. For example, with my manager Isabela Campana that is over there, she
Hi,
helps me a
Isabella.
lot.
How are you?
She helps me a lot with doing all of this, and especially with my mom. She's an amazing organizer. She's been working in a hospitality business, and she was helping me in Peru. But to fund this, definitely we were working with sponsors.
How many musicians did you bring with you?
5.
5,
all from Berkeley.
And where'd you play?
We played where?
Where in Peru?
Yeah, we played in Máncora, which is a city in the north of Peru, and we played in the capital, in Lima, and we played in the biggest venues.
Oh, wow.
And we sold out every like theater around like 170 to 120 people around. It was incredible experience. It was like all over the media also, and it was a lot of support because of social media. I've been posting like blogs of my life here in Boston, sharing how is life here as a musician studying at Berkeley.
This is brilliant, by the way. The marketing, I hate the term marketing because it sounds cheap.
Well.
And the marketing you have done on social media is
thank you.
unbelievable. Is that out of your head, or are you going to praise them too? Where's that from?
The marketing?
Yeah, where's that come from?
I mean, it's just me trying, posting up to like 7 times a day, trying to figure out which works. And, you know, sometimes in music and in marketing, to put it like that, it's not about like how you sell the product. Is that you have to connect with the people, not by just playing. Because if you just play, nothing's going to happen. You have to connect with them in the most primitive way possible, and it's telling stories, right? So what I started doing when I understood this concept, I started telling my own story in so many different ways, right? And I started telling my story of how I was selling candy in my high school to buy my first instrument, but to buy my clarinet. And then I applied to music school as a secret because my parents, they didn't let me study music. And when I applied to music school, I told them my saxophone is broken. I had no saxophone. And I played my audition. I got in. And then I went to my parents and I gave them my acceptance letter. And I told them, hey, I just got accepted in music school as a saxophone player, and I don't have a saxophone.
How did you pick?
So whoa, so they buy you a saxophone?
Yeah, in that moment, they supported me, and they got me a saxophone. Yeah.
And that's how you, and you applied to Berkeley. Berkeley was your top choice? You wanted to come to Berkeley?
Yeah, that was in Peru,
Yeah,
and
Peru.
then I started there for around 3 years in music school there. I started playing in all kinds of events. I was playing Peruvian music, I was playing rock, blues, and a lot of jazz.
Yeah.
I fell in love with jazz, that's why I picked the saxophone. I fell in love with John Coltrane, Dexter Gordon, Sonny Rollins, these huge saxophone players. By my favorite one,
Johnny Hodges right here.
Johnny
How about
Hodges,
that? Yeah.
insane. Michael Brecker is my personal favorite, and I started following all of these. And I applied to Berkeley eventually, and I got in.
We only have a minute for, by the way, I'm related to Michael Brecker. It's a long story. No. The sad part of this story, the sad part of this story is you came to Berkeley, as so many of the people who come here on Fridays, but you're leaving for Miami whenever you have a chance. What's not good enough for the music you play right here in town? Why?
Right. Well, first of all, in Miami is where my main community is being built right now, which is the Latin community.
Yeah.
I have a ton of contacts there, and I just love like the city, like that weather especially.
Do you know that 100% of the population growth in Boston over the last 20 years, 100% is Latinos? Do you know that?
Wow.
Huge.
Wow.
So stick around.
Yeah, do you ever see yourself coming back?
Do
you ever coming back to Boston?
Yeah, many times. I see myself coming here performing.
Yeah.
These like beautiful places to play. I'm in love with this city, honestly.
All right, we got to get him back.
What are you playing now?
Right now?
Yeah, you're
the
gonna
next
play
song. One more song.
In my next song, well, we are doing a Candy Touch.
Okay.
It's a new song. This is the first time I've ever played it in my life.
You wrote it?
Yes, I wrote it.
Put your headset down gently. And Shirley, why don't you share with people when Diego's going back where they're playing next Wednesday, that whole deal.
Right. I think they're coming back here, right? Boston
Right at the
Public Library.
Courtyard.
Yeah. Concerts in the Courtyard series. Berkeley's Summer in the City next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. So hopefully all of you can come back and hear Diego and his band.
By the way, I should say, if you haven't been in the Courtyard, I'm sure you'll have one of the most beautiful places in Boston or anywhere else. And with this music, doesn't get any better. Diego Herrera.
and
Thank you
speaking
so
with
much.
Diego Herrera, Peruvian saxophonist and composer. He'll be performing with his band here at the Boston Public Library as part of the Concerts in the Courtyard series and Berkeley's Summer in the City series here next Wednesday at 6 p.m. For more information, you can just Google Diego Herrera. He's all over social media. Thank you. We say goodbye to you listening. Goodbye to our listeners on NEPM, but make sure to tune in to the fabulous 413 starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The show continues here in Boston. Next up, we have Boston Medical Center's Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett. She discusses changes to the vaccine schedule for kids and more. I'm Shirley Leung in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you're a GBH sustainer and you received a new bank or credit card in the mail recently, there's an easy way to update your information. Just visit gbh.org/update and keep your membership up to date. That's gbh.org/update.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Lexington Community Education, committed to offering a revolution in lifelong learning for all. Fall registration is open and available online at lexingtoncommunityed.org.
And the Boston Speaker Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings, featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, historian Doris Kearns-Goodwin, and financial journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin. BostonSpeakers.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome back to hour number 2 of BPR and 89.7 GBH. She is Shirley Leung, business columnist extraordinaire for the Boston Globe and half of the Power Play newsletter team. How do you sign up for that thing again?
Globe.com/powerplay.
It's fabulous, by the way. It's really great. I'm Jim Browdy. Marjorie's off. I guess that's obvious. She's back. Whatever. We're all off next week, and then starting August 31st, we return to the thing here. We're joined now at the library by Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at BU Medical School, and Communications Fellow, whatever that means, at Primary Care Collaborative. Hello, Doctor. Nice to see you.
Wonderful seeing you all in this incredible crowd.
Big news today,
Yeah.
actually.
Or big news yesterday.
Well,
right?
yesterday. That's true, yeah.
Go. How's that?
We've all been buzzing about this new news out of a very promising potential of a new cancer vaccine from Moderna and Merck. Tell us more about this new potential breakthrough.
Yeah, so we are all very excited. I think that all of your listeners, everybody here, has certainly familiar with the words mRNA vaccine. I think, as you alluded to, we're covering calling it treatment, right, because of some of the allergies to the word vaccine right now.
Can we just stop there for a second?
Not we.
How pathetic is that you can't call a vaccine a vaccine?
I want to highlight that in terms of the good news, and yet also what we understand where the political landscape is. But let's just take this out of the kind of political landscape and talk about the science, because this is just so exciting. So why messenger RNA for this kind of cancer? So what they've targeted is something called melanoma. So many of you are familiar with melanoma. It's a deadly skin cancer. And why specifically this kind of cancer? Is because this is the kind of cancer where there are the most genetic mutations. So why? Probably because of sun exposure. So when there's a genetic mutation, the protein inside the cancer cell changes and then creates kind of a signal or a flag for scientists. And so these proteins, we call them neoantigens. So what scientists have done, specifically as you mentioned, Merck, they've taken patients who have melanoma who've gotten it resected. They've taken tissue from their melanoma and they've taken normal tissue and they've compared the two. And they have found all the places where there are differences, and then they take the most promising proteins that are the most different. And why is it promising? Because they show themselves the greatest. And then they made an mRNA vaccine that can target these proteins. So think about it, and it's actually very specific for each person. So you get the surgery, 6 to 8 weeks later, they develop the treatment for the patient. They then give this shot, to patients. Their bodies recognize these proteins. They develop their own system of defense against these proteins, and then they're able to go around the body and say, if there's any more of these cancer cells left, we can fight them.
So you take this not as preventative or
correct.
So it's
it is
different.
not preventative. It's specifically right now in trials for people who have already had melanoma in order to reduce the recurrence of melanoma. So melanoma, as people may know, it's very deadly. And part of the reason it's so deadly is even if after it's resected, these tiny little cancer cells can live on undetected and come back and come into other organs. So this has reduced the risk by about 50% of recurrence. Wow. We are just 1 second. This is phase 3 of a clinical trial.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
that
well
means
advanced, right?
this is this is the place where we need to be before market. These are the headlines. We'll get all of the data coming out of this phase 3 trial soon, but it's very reassuring.
I have a bunch of things to ask you. One, it's stage 3, and what I think I read is if everything continues to go well as early as the beginning of next year, this thing could be in the market. Is that correct?
Correct.
Secondly, most of the Moderna, Merck, I can't think of the third company, people are saying that in light of the fact that it appears to be very successful in treating, if that's the right verb, melanoma, it is likely that
we can use it for other
cancers. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Absolutely.
But here's the fear. You said we did the non-political. Let's get back to political. But I may get the number wrong. RFK Jr. in his savagery canceled, I think, $500 million of mRNA research. So why do we think that he is not going to come up with some made-up crap to stand in the way of this incredible breakthrough?
I mean, we cannot guarantee that, but given the fact that this is specifically for cancer and it's not about quote-unquote vaccines, which is where a lot of the, I know we'll talk about the controversies around MMR, et cetera.
We're going to do that next,
but the question is can the government, can the FDA, can the CDC get behind the fact that this is going to be a life-saving treatment?
Are people going to be able to afford it, or is this going to be GLP-1 redux?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, after talking about the incredible science of it, you also will remember that I said this is tailored to the individual, right? So the fact is how do we scale that up, right? There's still a lot of questions that remain. So the science is incredible. This breakthrough is incredible. It's, a wonderful use of mRNA. But how do we make this scalable? How do we make it affordable? And how do we then kind of translate this science to other kinds of cancers?
I've been involved in we're having a Future of Medicine Summit at the Globe in September, and actually my panel is about cancer vaccines.
Oh, wow.
Great. And you're starting to do your homework right now,
right.
Shirley.
So I was well aware that there is this whole, cancer vaccines, but it's just not Moderna and Merck. I mean, and it's not just for skin cancer. I think there's stuff for breast cancer.
And pancreatic cancer.
You're right.
Yeah, this is all in development. And, we think about something as common as an HPV vaccine, which we've talked a lot about, right, which is given to and available to young children to prevent cervical cancer, right? So there are things that are out there that are already kind of in our armamentarium of working towards curing cancer.
In our what?
Armamentarium.
What the hell is armamentarium?
Use my military background.
What is that?
Like your ability to
you don't
have
even know
weapons.
What it is.
No, it is. It's like what is your weaponry? Jamie, look it up and
Jamie, look it up.
Tell
Now the guests are telling-
exactly what it means. It's a well-used definition of what tools you have in your toolbox.
I got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's stay on the topic of vaccines. I think last week or very recently there was an executive order to reduce the number. Trump had an executive order to reduce the number of childhood vaccines, and so vaccinations. One of them affected was MMR. So talk to us about that. And
yeah, so this just came out on August 10th. Trump made an executive order and said within 90 days the federal government needed to have a plan in order to take the MMR vaccine, which we have known to be a combined vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella since 1971, and come up with a plan so each of those things could be given separately. There is no science behind these things being given separately. And on top of that, actually, we would need to develop these vaccines. So none of these vaccines exist. We don't just have a measles vaccine. So this is going to take 5 to 10 years to develop and test. And it would also mean, I think part of the big push for what Trump and others have been working on is saying, let's get less vaccines in kids. So this would actually take so currently MMR comes in 2 doses. And by the way, we are still recommending MMR as a combined vaccination in Massachusetts. And it would take it into 6 shots. So from 2 shots to 6 shots, you can imagine I have 3 kids and I work full time. I can't imagine taking my children for 6 shots, let alone the fact that these vaccines are not even developed. So again, there's no scientific evidence. There is nothing developed. It is going to cause confusion. The good news is that states develop their own policy of vaccines. So we have 23 states, definitely including Massachusetts, that has their own vaccine schedule for children and for adults. We are continuing to follow the CDC, sorry, not CDC, the AAP, the guidelines coming out by pediatrics and family medicine, which include MMR as a vaccine. And actually, really importantly, Massachusetts is the only state that has also said to insurers, you need to cover all of the vaccines that are recommended by scientists, not by the federal government.
What happens briefly, because briefly,
right? Thank you.
If a person comes in and says, I heard Donald Trump, my favorite scientist, talking about this, I don't want 2 shots. I'm serious about this. I don't want 2 shots. I want 6 shots. What do you say to them?
I'm going to say it's not even available. We don't have those vaccines.
And what's the armamentarian factor here, do you think?
I definitely. Okay. One needs an armamentarium of vaccines.
We're talking to Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett yesterday and in past days, maybe with you in the past.
We're going to ask you to spell it next time.
Okay.
We've talked about some of the very small good news out of this horror trial of Lindsay Clancy. The one piece of, as I say, potential good news is that people like me who understood virtually nothing about postpartum depression and psychosis now at least are aware of it, and I hope that spreads. What we haven't talked about are the grotesque mental health failures that have been apparent in this trial. No follow-up, no communication between mental health. Just on and on. We've talked a lot with you and others about how it's almost impossible to find a shrink or a psychologist for a person who's not loaded. And even if you are loaded and have insurance, a lot of them don't take insurance. So what are the lessons that we should be taking away from the testimony we've heard in the Clancy trial? And 2, will we take them away? Or is this one of these we're focused for 3 weeks or 4 weeks and then we move on because it's beyond solution?
Let me start, first of all, I think that's a great question. Let me start with the first part of the question, which is what are the lessons? I talked about it a couple weeks ago. One is that we need a very clear DSM-5 definition of postpartum psychosis. It cannot be just thrown into a whole nother set of, postpartum depression or bipolar. It is different. It's absolutely different. We know that in 2024 in Massachusetts and other states, we are required as healthcare providers to screen for postpartum depression. But to your point, Jim, that there's no then follow-up plans.
I meant it more broadly, too,
Yeah.
not just around postpartum psychosis or
and
depression.
mental health, period.
Mental health, right.
Yeah. So the mental health kind of larger umbrella question, there was a great piece in the Globe about this, is that there's very little coordination of care in mental health. We're doing a much better job for those who can get access to primary care. We do a much better job of, what I say to my patients is, I'm your quarterback, right? I'm here to make sure that any kind of specialty care you're getting, I'm translating for you and I'm walking that journey with you. We don't have the same thing in mental health. So one thing is making sure that records are really accessible. We have clinicians whose notes, for a long time this was true where I work as well, I couldn't read what a therapist or psychiatrist, because it actually had a whole nother layer of HIPAA around it. So making transparency, saying to patients, that this is part of your care. Do you give us permission to share all of your care, mind, body, all of it, with your clinicians who care for you? So there's more transparency on records. The second thing is absolutely making sure that you as a patient can ask the question, who's managing my care? Who's getting all the records? And how do I ensure that they're coordinating and that it's not just assumed that some people are watching out for you, because people may not be watching out for you.
Can we get back to the transparency of care thing for a second?
Yeah.
Did you say that used to be the situation, or it still exists, that you can't?
In my clinic, in my hospital, we now absolutely have transparency. It's seamless. I actually oversee our integrated behavioral health for primary care, and it's absolutely, we all work together
And
as
is
a
there
team.
are there some places in Massachusetts
There
where
are other places where we cannot access, and also the electronic medical records aren't seamless.
But you probably have transparency within your medical group. But if you're working,
not even we didn't used to, but working across systems.
Yeah, I was going to say working.
That's
probably a challenge.
That's an inherent broken part
Right.
of our system right now. And so, what I would ask, the legislation in our state, because at this point we're really doing state by state changes, is ensuring that there is similar to a medical home for primary care, that there is a medical home for mental health.
Yeah. I mean, I just think about my own health care, right? If I have a doctor at BI and I have a doctor at MGH or Dana, I mean, they're
It's
not
very
always
complicated.
Yeah, they're not always
Yeah.
talking to each other. They're
That's
not always,
absolutely
even
right.
though they're
Your
supposed
primary care should be coordinating and talking about that, but it may not be. And also, mental health is, to our point, not always recorded in those places.
Right, and so I just that's shocking to me. That mental health is put in a separate bucket from your physical health. It should all be.
It is true. It's changing, not fast enough. We have definitely made huge strides in the last 10 years, but we've got a long way to go.
You are kinder to the legislature than we are, and you have better relationships than we do. Why is this not something, instead of your place has it integrated, other places don't?
Yeah.
It should take like 10-minute hearing and then go past the damn law. I mean,
I
by
wish
the
it were
way,
that
you don't
simple.
need to be a doctor to know your head is connected to your body.
Right.
I mean, literally
Yeah.
and figuratively.
Yeah.
So who objects to this?
There is, I can't speak to all the machinations that need to happen to pass something.
Yeah, but tell me what the
been-
argument against this is.
I don't think there's any argument against it. I think that it has not reached it hasn't been at the forefront given all the other fires we have to put out. My hope is that as horrible as the Clancy trial has been, it pushes it to the forefront in recognizing what a public health emergency this is.
Do we have time for one more topic?
We do.
All right, both Jim and I are fascinated by the Needle Nation.
Oh, Needle
Nation
Nation. Yes.
Story about how
Yeah.
a lot of treatments, it used to be that people with diabetes, had insulin injections, but now, AOC is injecting herself on social media for her freezing her eggs. Certainly GLP-1. Everyone is injecting themselves. So talk about why this is such a big trend. Why this is acceptable for patients and also drug makers. I want to know why are they, selling injections now?
Well, I mean, I think the fact is a lot of people are still very squeamish about needles, but their fear is less than the benefit that they may be gaining, right? So 1 in 5 adults are on an injectable GLP-1.
That's incredible.
And I also think that the actual needle is getting a lot better technologically. But I think it's also part of people taking back their own health. I think some of the injectables we know about, some are like peptides that are not sold above market. And I think people starting to feel like actually maybe this is part of, how I reclaim my health. I saw AOC's kind of injection of herself as a way of saying, we should be not hiding fertility treatments. The fact that she's 36 and has worked really hard and hasn't had the time or the opportunity to have a child, that's very real for all of us who are professional women. And I think that's an important thing that she brought to the fore. And the fact that she was comfortable injecting herself in the green room before she went on publicly, to me, just demonstrate how people are just more comfortable with that notion of injections.
So these injections, are they better treatments? Is that why they're being delivered that way? Or do drug makers make more money?
I will say for some of the things that we're looking at, like GLP-1s, that was how it was developed, and it is, there are oral GLP-1s, but it's a standard of care, the injection. And now I talk to people, I just saw a patient yesterday who didn't, could never remember her birth control and didn't want an IUD. So I said, well, let's do, a birth control patch, because that's once a week and you inject yourself once a week. So, you can start to time other things in your health around injectables.
By the way, I want you to know, Marjorie and I have been on the air 27 years. It's the first time a guest ever ordered a producer to do something in the middle of the segment. I just looked it up. It's never happened before.
Okay, wait a second.
27
Jamie
years.
is amazing. I called on him as a friend.
And he did it. He did it too, by the way.
Was it appropriate?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Speaking with Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett. She's Vice Chair of Primary Care and Innovation and Transformation at Boston
Can I
Medical
say this
Center.
on the air? Jamie just wrote me a note. He said it's actually not true it's the first time. Her father did the same thing to me. The great David Gergen. That's a great, talk about a great story.
I love it.
I'm sorry, Shirley. Go ahead. Thank you, Jamie.
I love it. Anyways.
Catherine's turning red.
She's the Associate Professor at Boston University Medical School and Communications Fellow at Primary Care Collaborative. Thanks, Dr. KGB, the best nickname in the business. Coming up after this quick break, after nearly 30 years in prison for a crime he maintains he never committed, Stephen Pina exited a courthouse last week, a fully free man, after the district attorney decided they would not retry him for a murder that occurred in 1993. We'll speak with Stephen Pina and Sean Ellis, co-founder of the Exoneree Network, who lived a similar journey through the Massachusetts criminal legal system. I'm Shirley Leung, in for Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, today on the Curiosity Desk, live from the Boston Public Library. Right now, thousands of monarch butterflies across New England are gearing up for a big 3,000-mile journey to Mexico. We'll meet with one very qualified lepidopterist and one GBH reporter who will not stop slacking us updates about the butterflies he's been rearing. That's the Curiosity Desk, today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Burton's Grill and Bar, offering catering for family gatherings and corporate events with gluten-free and food allergy-friendly options. Orders available for takeout and delivery in Greater Boston. Burton's Grill, Roto-Rooter.com. And Roto-Rooter, providing plumbing, drain cleaning, and water cleanup services in North America since 1935. 24/7 emergency services available. Service information and scheduling can be found at Roto-Rooter.com.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. I'm Jim Browdy. Marjorie's off this week. Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung is sitting in. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. And I just remember when I heard Edgar's voice at 1 o'clock today, as you know, live Curiosity Desk, 2 o'clock today with Jared and Company live culture show. So please stick around. Last week, for the first time in nearly 33 years, Stephen Pina could exhale freely. 3 decades ago, he'd been convicted of murder, but the Suffolk DA's office finally dropped the case against him after the state's highest court recently ordered a new trial. Stephen had spent 28 years in prison for a crime he credibly maintained all along he'd never committed. 1993 murder of a man in Mission Hill. In 2022, a judge ruled his conviction should be thrown out, and he was released from jail pending appeal over issues around exculpatory DNA evidence that had been withheld, information about a witness that totally compromised that person's testimony. Finally, a free man. The man standing to his right, next to him, you know, has a similar story. Sean Ellis spent 22 years in prison for the murder of a Boston police officer. The state tried him 4 times. Corrupt cops involved throughout. Ultimately, he was exonerated. The Netflix documentary series Trial 4 is all about Sean's case. He's the co-founder and director of the Exoneree Network, a peer-led initiative run by the New England Innocence Project. We'll tell you in a minute what Stephen does. Sean and Stephen, we are thrilled to have you here today, and Stephen particularly, congratulations to you. Thrilled to have you.
You're going to make me cry, sir. You're going to make me cry.
Feel free. We were too.
Stephen, just last week, the Suffolk DA dropped the case against you. I mean, how are you feeling today?
I'm a million pounds lighter, for one. And it finally feels good to say Stephen Pina, the exoneree, instead of Commonwealth versus Stephen Pina. I've waited for this moment 32 years, 10 months and 7 days, which is 11,999 days. And this has been a dream of mine to be on with Jim and Sean. Like, this is full circle because we kind of began this journey together. And to see him go home was bittersweet. But when he went home, he advocated for me when he could. And to come home March 9th of 2022 and him stand there knowing that what we've been through, the difficulties, there were times when it just the disappointment got so overwhelming, there was times I just didn't want to fight no more. And he would be like, nah, they fight, we fight, let's go, let's get in that law library.
Sean, how far back do you guys go? You were there the day that the Hayden, the DA, finally said no more trial here, right? Were you not there that day?
I was there that day, finally.
How far do you guys go back?
Me and Steve go back to October 6, 1993. We were being held in the same holding cell in West Roxbury District Court. And I was accused of the murder of a Boston police officer, and I was not necessarily being treated good. And I was cold. And Stephen took the shirt off his back, and I didn't know Stephen. We grew up in 2 totally different parts of the city. But Stephen took the shirt off his back, and he gave me the shirt off his back because he seen that I was cold.
Literally took his shirt off his back?
No, literally.
I had on 2 shirts.
Like, it was, and I remember it was a cashmere sweater. And he gave me a sweater.
Why'd you do that?
It was just someone I saw. He was cold. I think he had his hands inside his shirt. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, yo, I got 2 shirts. He's cold. Yeah, like no thought to it. It's just, I guess, being raised like that from my mom, having compassion and stuff.
Stephen, you mentioned the number of days and hours a minute ago, and I'm not surprised. Starting with you and then Sean, were there times during those thousands of days when you said, I'm never getting out of this place, even though I didn't commit this crime?
So there was a time I woke up in my cell at about 3:30 in the morning. And I sat up and I looked at the walls and I said, this could be it for you. You may have to spend the rest of your life here. And I also realized that I was going to lose my mom and my dad while incarcerated. And because of the time I had, I wouldn't be allowed to go to a funeral. And it felt like my throat, there was like a jawbreaker, like I couldn't swallow. And that kind of started this part of me that disconnected in a way that when that news came, I would be able to, kind of like chuck it up that my mom passed away. And it kind of, it affects you emotionally and mentally.
We're talking to Stephen Pina and Sean Ellis, two of the finest people I've met in my time here in Boston. Did you have the same sort of feeling that maybe this is never going to be over?
So I understood when the jury came back and I was sentenced to death in prison by incarceration. I understood what I was being told. I didn't necessarily take in and embrace what I was being told. There was like a blockage. And then I remember when my direct appeal was affirmed, meaning that the state's highest court upheld the jury's verdict. And I think that might have been my lowest point, where I'm like, wow, like they just said I was gonna die in prison, like, and it was unbelievable. And then I remember, like, my mother too was diagnosed with colon cancer, and she was given a term on her life, and thankfully she's still alive today as a cancer survivor. But those sorts of things pull on you, and those are some of the sorts of things that we deal with as a result of these wrongful convictions.
Jim, I don't know how long we have, right? But I want to say that it feels good to be an exoneree, and to have justice for me and my family. But I would be remiss in not mentioning the injustice to the Keith Robinson family.
Keith Robinson is the man who you were convicted for having.
Yes. I will never get an apology from this administration. And I'm home because
what do you mean, this administration?
This administration under Kevin Hayden.
Oh, the DA's also.
And, a lot of people feel like, he did the right thing, and it's not like he did what he was supposed to do as he said he would do. He did what he had to do because the highest court in the land spoke.
We should explain here, when Kevin Hayden was with us a few weeks ago, Kevin Hayden said originally, if the lower court rules that there should be a new trial, I'll go along with that. And in fact, he didn't go along with it. He ended up appealing it. And it was only when the state's highest court determined that the lower court was right, he finally decided to drop the case. I'm sorry, Steve.
And we have an important race coming up for district attorney in Suffolk County. And because of, everybody knows who I support, and that's Rachel Rollins, hands down. Because of Rachel, a lot of us are home because of her open file. You know what I'm saying? Allowing defense attorneys to go in and look at a file that up until then, the DA's office would not let you see that, and they were able to hide things that, for me and Sean, that got us out of prison. So, my birthday's September 1st, which is election day.
Wow.
And I've told my friends and family, like, I don't want no birthday happy wishes or none of that. What I need you to do is go out and register. And for my birthday, after 32 years, 10 months, and 7 days, is to go vote for Rachel Rollins. That's how I feel.
Okay, Stephen. I just want one follow-up to this, and then Shirley. Do you, either of you have, let me call it, I don't know if this is the right term, sort of survivor's guilt for the people you left behind who were important to you there, who you're convinced are as innocent of what they did as you are. Do you want to, Sean? Do you want to speak to that first? Do you feel any of that, or is that?
So, I wouldn't say, Jim, that I have survivor's guilt. What I do know is for the nearly 22 years that I spent in prison, every day that I was in there, I fought to prove my innocence. And so, like, now isn't something that was handed to me.
Right.
However, I do know that there are systematic problems that we have to deal with and that we need to address, right? And part of that, Jim, is on the back end, right? When we get out of prison, and there are no resources for us once we come home, and that was something that I experienced, and then that's something why I've gone on with 2 other exonerees to help co-found the exoneree network, so that we do have resources, and there isn't this gaping hole caused by a lack of resources for when we come home. But,
right, it's not just like a resource. You've told me in the past you didn't know how to use a phone. I mean, you didn't at the most basic. Do you have any of that guilt?
I did. There are some brothers, man, Asian T, that I'm really adamant about getting home. A brother named Odie Fernandez. There's so many to mention. But what helped me was I had gotten a letter from a friend of mine named Ye. Earl Foldren is also someone we were trying to get home. And in his letter, because he had heard about it from Fu Quan, this guilt that I was having.
Fu Quan McGee, who's been with us.
Yeah. And he wrote a letter to me saying, listen, like Sean said, I fought. I was in the law library. I fought to get home, in that I need to live my life. And because of my going home, it inspired a lot of them inside to stop fighting more. And then they came with a card where all the guys inside signed and told me to, like, yo, they're proud of what I'm doing out here. Keep up the good work. Continue to fight, man. And just live. You know what I'm saying? They're inspired by me coming home, and that kind of like, I cried that day on my bed. I was home by myself, but it was like, okay, my brother said to live, like, we all right. So that went out. Yeah, that was.
We're talking to Stephen Pina and Sean Ellis.
So tell us more about this exoneree network. I mean, who do you work with? What are the basic needs of your exonerees? This club that's it's growing, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna let him talk about that, but I do work for them now as Community Engagement Associates.
And that was a beautiful day too, to welcome you on board with the Exoneree Network. And so, what the Exoneree Network is a program within the New England Innocence Project that provides. Well, we empower the people who suffered the trauma of long-term confinement to heal and rebuild once they're home in freedom, right? But the thing that's unique about us is that it's not only the exoneree or the person who's directly impacted by the criminal legal system that we help to provide services to. We also help to provide services to the family, right? Who's often the silent person that's left out of the whole equation. Like, so for Steve and my mom, right? My family used to bring Steve to the prison to visit Steve, right? Because his mom, was getting older, as the decades went on. Steve was in prison for over 30 years, right? And so it actually started on the inside where we built this community of support, trying to help one another on the inside, and that was unofficially. And then once we came home, officially on the outside, we started to provide services because we realized that there was no housing, there was no pathway for us to get the mental health and trauma healing support that we needed. There was no money. I came home broke. I think you came home broke.
Came home broke. Still broke.
Yeah. And so one of the most critical, important things that we do is provide immediate financial services for people coming home. Even applying for health care, we have a social service advocate that helps the people in our community sign up for health care and all the vital documents that's needed. People are still coming home without an ID, without identification. Those are some of the things that I struggle with, that I came home without, and I don't know about you, Steve.
Yeah. By the way, if you want to learn more about the Exoneree Network, as Sean said, it's part of the New England Innocence Project. You go to newenglandinnocence.org. And Stephen Pina, where would it be that you work right now? Where would that be?
I work with them, the Exoneree Network.
Yeah. What else?
I'm also I want to say clothing designer, but I'm more of a
You are clothing designer.
artist. No, because I've learned that what I create is wearable art. And everything is, I think it's upscaled or whatever they call it, or upcycled, buying stuff from vintage stores and just doing my craft on it.
Where do we find this stuff?
On stand.on.business_NMW on Instagram.
That was the worst I've ever heard in my life. No one's remembered that. Give us that one more time, please. What is that?
stand.on.business_NMW. And that's the name of the brand. There's a streetwear brand called Stand On Business.
Stand On Business.
And I say that because when you stand on business, people stand with you so you don't stand alone. And that's how it's been for me.
Okay, you're going to have to do that again in a minute. But there's also another place where I've done a little bit of work from you from time to time. You want to mention that operation, please?
So I became brand ambassador Everyday Boston.
Explain what it is, please.
So Everyday Boston is a nonprofit. We're focused on making Boston the most connected city in America through storytelling and conversation. And the goal is to divide stereotypes. Stereotypes divide us, stories connect us. And we go out, we set up a table, and we have these prompts on there. And it could be a prompt like, tell me about a street you grew up on. Tell me about your first crush. The one I like to do is, tell me something about you somebody wouldn't know just by looking at you. So it's basically, what's your story? And I enjoy that.
Don't leave that yet. I am told by a reliable source that one of the things you do, in addition to the things that I've seen you do, is you do these monthly story share things at a senior center in Brighton. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And yesterday was when you were there, I'm told, was a little bit different from the normal story sharing that you lead. How is that different, Stephen Pina?
So when I first started Everyday Boston with the Bridge Project, when people would ask my story, I'd go into my story. And I had to learn that it's not always about me. Us going to the senior center is to story share with them. The seniors have a lot to offer and a lot of stories that are valuable. But yesterday, they kind of made it about me. They had a cake, a card. And these are seniors that we've been going to for a while.
They wanted to see pictures of somebody, too. Who'd they want to see pictures of? Your mother.
My mother, yeah. They wanted to see Mom, and there was some great pictures of Mom. But to have that from these seniors, it was just emotional, man, And then they had these questions, so.
All right, so I have one. We have a couple minutes left.
We'll just keep going.
All right,
Let's keep talking.
So I'm reading a...
Actually, we're going to take a quick break,
Okay.
I'm just told by John. We'll take a quick break, and we'll come back, continue our conversation with Stephen Pina and Sean Ellis.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, 30 years later, Tupac's murder trial is underway. The Grammys rethink their new Asian pop category, and a new Little House on the Prairie series features Osage voices. It's our pop culture roundtable. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Cambridge Trust, a division of Eastern Bank, offering business and personal wealth management and private banking services, investing more than $240 million in local communities since 1994. More at cambridgetrust.com. And Newport Mansions, presenting Revolution Reimagined, a new exhibit at Rosecliff exploring Newport, Rhode Island's role in the American Revolution and how later generations reshaped the city's collective memory. NewportMansions.org.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan is off. Shirley Young from The Globe is in. I am Jim Browdy. We're live at the library streaming youtube.com/GBH. We're continuing our conversation with two men who, in our name, were sentenced between them to 50 years. Well, they're sentenced to more. Spent 50 years in jail. Are both out and doing really important things, which we're going to continue to discuss. Stephen Pina and Sean Ellis. I'm sorry, Shirley.
So reading about your cases, both tried and convicted in the 1990s. I mean, now we learned that you were in the same holding cell back in, 1993? You served time for criminal charges that are now vacated or dropped. So are there more people like you sitting in jail right now?
Yes. I mentioned one. Hun Nook is his name. We call him Asian T. Odie Fernandez, Earl Fojan, so many others.
And so what's going on? Are they going through the same process you went through? Are there cases being, an attempt to reopen them and revisit them?
Yeah, so one of the big things, the most important things, right, about the district attorney's election that Steve spoke about is the open file discovery, right? Because what that does is it levels trials, and so when you don't have open file, right, it's almost like, not almost like, you go to trial with your hand, at least one hand tied behind your back. But what happened with Steve and I is not only did we not have open file, right, there was a withholding of evidence in our case, and so now we have two hands tied behind our back, right? And so the people who are in prison, that's a lot of what they're experiencing. And to debunk the myth, not everybody in prison says that they're innocent, right? And so when these organizations, right, such as the New England Innocence Project, right, and others locally that are doing the innocent work, not everybody reaches out to them, but when somebody reaches out to them and says that they're innocent, they take a good hard look, right? And oftentimes it starts with them having to do investigations, having to do forensic testing, things of that nature to look into the person's case. And so that's some of the things that the people in prison are dealing with, because when you're in prison, you're not working, so you don't have funds. So
resources, lawyers, research, I mean, money is a huge part of this. Having people, either training people to do research themselves, having lawyers or legal teams that can do some of the things that you got. I mean, Rosemary Scapicchio, who obviously has been on the show with us a lot, one of the most brilliant lawyers on the planet. Obviously, right. Sean worked with you. What else, beyond the obvious, I don't mean to belittle, and by the way, I should have said, when you mention Everyday Boston, it's everydayboston.org. People should check it out. It's a wonderful, and they have like a normal website, Stephen, which you should maybe have. What else? Again, all this is done in our name, and I think people should feel you have a responsibility to fix what's broken in a system that took 50 years out of their lives and is taking decades out of others. What else, starting with you, Steve, what are the other legal, societal changes that we need to make so we don't keep making these mistakes?
One of the things for me is proper investigations and to do things the right way. But I think that usually when change happens, it's because it's a financial thing. And if they really had to pay for all of these wrongful convictions and the money come from the organizations that these wrongful convictions happen because of, then I think they would do better and be better.
Well, you know, also talk about consequences. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean. 2 of the cops who were lying in your case ended up going to jail. Am I not right about that? Is it 2?
2.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there was some accountability there, which doesn't undo what they did to you. Go ahead.
So just to be clear, there were 3 identified police officers involved in my case. One of them became a witness for the federal government, and then the other 2 ended up serving 3 years in the federal system as a result of misconduct and wrongdoing. However, they never looked into in depth their direct wrongdoing in my case.
Case, well, my apologies.
However, the court itself acknowledged their wrongdoing in my case.
So in your situation, I mean, just give one example, Stephen. One of the BS witnesses said they saw you with your hand on the lapel of Mr. Robinson. That's the last name before he was killed. And the cops had evidence, the DA test, there was DNA evidence later on that there was none of your DNA anywhere there. Is anybody paying a price for that?
It's unfortunate that, again, justice won't be done. I think this is a case where, because I was convicted and waited 32 years, 10 months, and 7 days, I don't think they will ever get a conviction, even if they knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they'll get a conviction on this, which again leads the family to not getting justice.
Do you guys have bitterness? I mean, one of the things, I am amazed. I've been lucky enough. I met you, Sean, a long time ago. Stephen, not so long ago. Fuquan was with us a couple of times. I am amazed how little bitterness so many people in your situation feel directed at the people who are responsible for taking away a serious chunk of your life. Do you feel that, or have you decided that's not an emotion that you can have, Stephen?
I can't afford to be bitter. Me being bitter stunts me. One of the seniors asked me yesterday, do I forgive the people that put me in this position or put me in prison? And it was hard to answer. And thinking about it, I can't say that I have, and I can't say that I haven't. What I do know is I would like to see the face of everyone who lied and put me there, just to stand there and be like, I'm the definition of bounce back. You did that to me, but look at this. I'm victorious. And I said to Sean, when you get sentenced to life in prison, your goal is to give that back to them. You understand? They buried us alive. They gave us life without the possibility of parole. And it took Sean 22 years. It took me 32, but we gave it back to him. Here you go. Take that. Don't belong to us.
Well, can I tell you, as somebody who's followed the incredible work you've done after you became free, everybody owes you a debt of gratitude in so many ways. NewEnglandInnocence.org, did I say? Is it org?
NewEnglandInnocenceProject.org.
Project.org, EverydayBoston.org. You're both doing spectacular work, and we hope you'll keep coming back and telling us what we should be doing to make up for what we did. Good to see you both, gentlemen. Thank you so much for.
Don't forget to vote September 1st.
Oh yeah, don't forget to vote September 1st. Suffolk County DA Rachel Rollins, as far as I'm concerned. So.
Ronald Rollins.
Great to see you both.
All right,
that's who exonerated me, Jim.
I'm well aware of that.
Yeah, okay.
We've talked to her a lot, but maybe people in the audience were not. The Integrity Project that Rachel Rollins started when she was DA led to not just these 2 men, but a number of others finding the freedom they deserve.
Which is one of the reasons why she needs to get her job back, because it's still there, but it's not being utilized the way that it should.
You want 15 seconds. You want to say something?
15 seconds, Jim. You asked about bitterness, right?
Yeah, quick. I'm sorry.
And you and I spoke about, you asked me a lot about why wasn't I angry, right? Yeah. And I went through a process of being angry, and I realized that it was heavy. Keon Sprinkles, right, another exoneree, says something about righteous anger that helped me to understand that a little bit better.
I'm glad you shared that with us, gentlemen. It's wonderful to spend time with you. Good luck with everything.
We've been speaking with Sean Ellis and Stephen Pina, who between the 2 of them have served more than 50 years in prison for crimes they maintained they never committed. Sean, Stephen, great to meet you. Coming up for this quick break. Oh, actually, no. No quick break.
Coming up on the Curiosity Desk right after us here, Edgar's Misfit News panel, in case you missed it, plus a butterfly. Oh, I love butterflies. Butterfly expert with GBH's Craig LeMoult. Now you say
Oh,
whatever
now
else you're gonna
I
say.
can say, okay, thanks for listening to another edition of BPR on 89.7 GBH, and thanks to everyone who came down to see the show at the BPL. It's a full house today. This is impressive. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tune in Monday for an encore edition of BPR. We'll bring you our conversation with Nadine Momin, a local powerlifter, a musical performance with the band Guster, a deep dive into the GBH podcast Catching the Codfather, and the criminal mastermind behind New Bedford's fishing industry. Plus, we'll hear from a mother and son cooking duo on their cookbook, Heartland Masala, about family and the power of food.
How about this? How about we say, have a good weekend. I'm Jim Browdy. Who are you again?
I'm Shirley Leung.
You were fabulous. Let's hear it for Shirley. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank
See
you.
you soon. Bye.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And MIT Federal Credit Union. Banking built on innovation. Guided by real people. Memberships open to the public. More at mitfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA. And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, live from the Boston Public Library, we kick things off with our weekly menagerie of misfit headlines, in case you missed it, which includes news of a sanctuary for hundreds of guinea pigs just north of us in Salisbury. Then we'll discuss the legacy of Dr. Elka McKenzie, a transgender botanist from Harvard, and how her 1950s research in lichenology revolutionized the field. Don't worry, we'll define lichenology too. And to close, right now, as we speak, thousands of monarch butterflies across New England are gearing up for their big migration to Mexico. We'll get insights from one very qualified entomologist and one GBH reporter who will not stop sending us Slack updates about the butterflies that he has been rearing in his backyard. We love you, Craig, but it's a bit much. That's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The federal government is out with a new plan for how several states access water from the Colorado River for at least the next 2 years, as the region faces the realities of droughts and water restrictions. Downstream states, California, Arizona, and Nevada, will bear the brunt of the cuts. The administration's plan does not issue water reduction mandates for 4 upper basin states, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and New Mexico. But after 2 years, it calls for the upstream and downstream states to hold a new round of talks over their dispute. The Colorado River feeds Lakes Mead and Powell, the nation's 2 largest reservoirs, now experiencing record low water levels. Gasoline prices are inching up while bond prices are moving down. NPR's Scott Horsley has a roundup of what's moving financial markets.
Investors will be keeping a close eye on the bond market today. The yield on long-term government bonds rebounded Thursday, despite an effort by the Treasury Department to push those bond yields down. Bondholders have been demanding a bigger payback in return for lending the government money. They're concerned about the size of the federal debt, which reached $40 trillion this week, as well as stubborn inflation. Gasoline prices typically fall as summer draws to a close, but AAA says this could be the most expensive August ever at the gas pump. The average price of regular gas is just under $4.11 a gallon, topping the previous high set back in 2022. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Supreme Court is expected to weigh in on whether President Trump can continue construction of the White House ballroom. The lawsuit has already been argued through several lower courts after nonprofit groups sued the administration, saying congressional approval was needed for the new side. Here's NPR's Deepa Shivaram.
The Trump administration is arguing that the ballroom was needed to create a, quote, integrated military complex that houses medical care, a drone port, and bomb shelters. On the other hand, the National Trust for Historic Preservation is saying that the executive branch doesn't have the authority to transform the White House like this, even for national security purposes.
NPR's Deepa Shivaram reporting. The government of Guatemala says the U.S. has deported nearly 2,300 Mexican migrants to Guatemalan soil, and NPR's Ada Peralta reports the Mexican government is worried.
Normally, migrants are only deported to a country that is not theirs when their home country won't take them or when it's too dangerous for them to go back. Guatemalan President Bernardo Arévalo said that's not the case with the Mexican deportees. Guatemala, he says, treats them like they are in transit and they are sent to Mexico by land within 24 hours. In a statement, Mexico said it opposes the practice. Human rights groups view it as an attempt to intimidate migrants. In a statement to Reuters, the U.S. State Department said it was focused on implementing President Trump's immigration policy. Ada Peralta, NPR News, Mexico City.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon from the GBH newsroom in Boston. I'm Craig LeMoult. 2 police officers in Lynn are on paid administrative leave after being accused of misusing flock camera technology. The cameras are used to track license plates in various communities across the state. The allegations come from a department-wide audit of the flock camera system, which found anomalies in database searches. Security analyst Dan Linsky says these incidents erode public trust.
The public is going to get so leery of the technology that the good that it can do to keep people safe and secure will be outweighed by the malice in which it's being utilized by officers for their own intended purposes.
Police in East Bridgewater now say they're ending their relationship with Flock a day after Hopkinton announced a cancellation of their contract with the company. The East Bridgewater police chief says concerns about privacy, data security, and information sharing ultimately outweighed the potential benefits of the technology. The Boston Public Health Commission is warning residents about a cyanobacteria algae bloom impacting the Charles River downstream from the Mass Ave Bridge between Boston and Cambridge. Testing done by the state's Department of Public Health has revealed levels that exceed guidelines for recreational waters in Massachusetts. Cyanobacteria can produce toxins that are harmful to people and pets. The commission says residents should avoid contact with water east of the bridge. Some showers today, highs in the mid-70s. Maybe some more showers tonight, going down to the low 60s. And a bit of a rainy weekend. Clouds with a chance of showers on Saturday, highs in the low 70s. And Sunday, more showers likely with temperatures in the upper 70s. This is GBH.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Schwab, where investors have a range of choices to pursue investing goals, from self-directed investing to full-service wealth management, all in one place. More at schwab.com. This is NPR.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are live at the Boston Public Library, and we're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, it is a bit of a gloomy, rainy day here in the Boston area, which if you've been with us this week, you now know could be bad news for folks who are prone to migraine headaches.
It sounds implausible.
It does.
But the reality is there is some very good research that suggests that weather can predict headache.
We also learned this week, much to our whole team's surprise, that in the cherry tomato category at the annual Massachusetts Tomato Contest, the judges just don't pop the whole tomato into their mouth.
You only eat a small portion.
Okay.
Of the tomato,
Even with the cherry
so
tomato, you can only take a little piece.
Exactly.
Congrats to all the tomato contest winners. That was yesterday, by the way. Elsewhere in the news, you may have been busy following stories about falling bond yields, a new White House helipad, Prince Harry's journey back to England. And if you were, there is a chance that you missed the story of 2026, the squid-pocalypse in Narragansett, Rhode Island, where a tractor-trailer packed full of raw squid toppled over onto roadways, leading to a nearly 8-hour cleanup process, though the smell may take a little longer to dissipate. Yes, it is time for our weekly menagerie of minor and misfit news in case you missed it. Joining us to weigh in on these stories and more, Paris Alston, host of GBH News is Rooted. They are back with new stuff on September 1st. Steady stream of interviews and social content on the GBH social and YouTube
including
channels.
an episode about BBLs.
Oh, there you go.
Brazilian butt lifts.
Yes. Today, Paris is joined by Jeremy Siegel, host of GBH's In Common, which airs Saturdays at 2 on GBH, NEPM, and WCAI. There's also a podcast version of the show. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you for having us, Paris. I'm sorry we didn't give you the denim
Yeah,
shirt
you
memo.
didn't get the denim memo, sadly. All right, let's talk about the squid apocalypse. My understanding from our production team is we've got some sound. I think it's maybe even from inside of the truck right before the spill.
He's Squidward. He's Squidward. You're Squidward. I'm Squidward. Are there any other Squidwards I should know about?
Now, come on.
There was a brief moment where I thought you really had audio.
Well, we do have some audio, not from inside of the truck, but here's some audio from WGAR in Providence. This is one local woman's reaction to the big spill.
I didn't believe it was real when my friend posted about it and I was on the island reading. She said you might have to climb over a mountain of squid to get to Block Island today. And then her next story was a photo of it and I was like, oh my gosh, it is indeed real. It felt like something out of SpongeBob or something.
It sounds like climbing over it would be quite hard.
Why would you try to climb over it? Just go around it.
For the experience.
I
It would
guess
be
so.
impossible to climb over. I was reading about this, and it's very dangerous, actually, to have squids like this on the road because they're extremely slippery. And I was like, why are squids so slippery? They have a mucous membrane that is on them to help them glide through the water and also fend off predators that when you leave it on a roadway in, above 80-degree heat does become a big problem because they decay. They basically cook.
and they start to smell. The authorities were talking about this really foul smell that came from all the squid. And you were telling me it took quite a long time for them to clean
It was an
up.
entire workday. So, like, the police were called at, like, 9:27 in the morning, and it wasn't until around 5 o'clock that they got the roadway clear. Right?
so
Yeah.
crazy.
Also, I find myself thinking about whether this is going to be – so this happened in Narragansett, Rhode Island. Like, is this going to be Narragansett's molasses flood, which is to say, like, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, are
They're
people
gonna
going to say,
still be
you can still
smelling
smell this on a hot summer day, you can still smell the squid on the road in
But similar things,
Narragansett.
you mentioned the molasses flood. Also, similar incidents have happened around the country. I was looking into it a little bit. In Seattle, Washington, there was once a semi-truck that spilled roughly 14 million bees. That was quite a cleanup. Yeah, it involved the fire department
14 million?
They had to take out foam to get these bees, like, to make them to contain them because they were aggressive bees. So it was quite the situation. Another in
It makes me wonder how many people got stung.
Probably many of them.
Probably
Luckily, the
a lot.
firefighters probably have suits that are more equipped to deal with bees than the average person.
You would hope.
2017, tens of thousands of pounds of marble spilled onto a highway in Indianapolis. It's like something straight out of Looney Tunes.
Hopefully
right?
nobody drove over those, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it
that's
would've
not one
caused
you want to
a
climb.
lot
You don't
of
want to
trouble.
try to climb over that pile.
You know what I thought about when I saw the squid spill too?
You thought, I'm
Edgar?
not going to get any calamari at a
Facts.
restaurant anywhere
You know,
around there
and you
for
know
the
that's
next
Rhode
couple of
Island's
weeks.
that's Rhode Island state appetizer, so they see millions of pounds of squid come through there all the time. And of course, like I'm sure the squid that spilled out onto the road is no longer usable for various reasons. But I'm
to
like,
say the least, yeah.
I just wonder about the innocent bystander who was like, now wait a minute, did I just come up on some
just
free
like
calamari?
I got to go grab a bucket and get myself some squid. Yeah, I mean, listen. Also, like, could the roadways be that much dirtier than the oceans? Really?
Good point.
Yeah, it's probably still good to eat. All right, well, elsewhere news, something else folks might have missed this week is that Massachusetts has a new, I guess, champion, you would call it, in the specialty license plate department. So, I think folks probably know about this. Massachusetts has something like 50-plus different specialty license plates you can get. So when you get your car registered here, you can pay a little extra money and get a specialty plate with a little...
We've talked about this way back when. On
way
Morning
back in the
Edition.
day on Morning
Yes,
Edition.
indeed.
So news this week that the special 200 America 250 plate is now the most popular one that the state has ever offered.
You know, Massachusetts is always going to love its beginnings.
Talking about
right? Talking about, we were the first, we were here, we did it.
Yeah.
I have a hot take theory for why this has been so popular. Which
I'm
is that
surprised.
We have a very boring traditional plate. This has color. You know, some of the best plates around the country, like I think of one that pops immediately to my mind is Vermont, where they have that
beautiful
green, and they have the white lettering on it.
Also,
you want
Maine's,
something
I
that
love
stands out.
Maine's plate with the tree on it, with like the pine tree on it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, New York also had a beautiful one for a long time that they took out of commission in 2020, but they had the blue and gold, and I think people just want a pop of color in addition to, I'm sure there was 250 of patriotism playing into this.
And Jeremy will understand when I say it took me forever to change my license plates from North Carolina to Massachusetts.
What does the North Carolina plate look like?
It has a nice airplane on it. It's so
right.
simple.
First in
so
flight.
chill.
It says first in flight,
First
right?
in flight.
There's actually a little
Touting the first.
competition between where Paris is originally from North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm from Ohio, and Ohio's license plate says the birthplace of flight.
Because the Wright brothers were from Ohio, but
yes,
then they
were.
went
But
to
did
North
they fly the
Carolina.
plane
Everybody's
there?
trying to play the plane. Yeah.
But I will say the Ohio license plate that Jeremy had for a long time was really nice. It was colorful.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And but when I had to switch to Massachusetts, I was like, I'm not really feeling this license plate.
You know how it says Spirit of America on the bottom of the regular plate? Do you know where that comes from? Do folks out in the crowd here at the Boston Public Library remember a tourism campaign in the 80s and 90s? Spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America, with a really mediocre song that went with it. Nobody remembers it.
Are you going to sing it?
No, I'm not. And
This is a perfect thing for you to be talking about on the Curiosity Desk, Edgar.
The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America.
Well done, Ed.
Okay,
that was beautiful.
I mean,
terrible. Let's re-release the song.
What I find incredible is it's like a very mediocre marketing campaign that's somehow been like forever on our license plates.
Well, maybe this is what the MA250 plates will turn into, because they're going to keep selling them past this anniversary.
Yeah, you can still get them, although you can't. They had a lottery. Did you see they had a lottery for like the low number plates and for the number 1776? And there was a person from Plymouth won the lottery for number 1776, which I find suspicious, though.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, anybody who came to
they were
Plymouth
in Plymouth
and got something was a
and
little
like they got 17. I don't know. It just seems suspicious to me. All right. Well, this is the Curiosity Desk. This is, in case you missed it, our little menagerie of misfit headlines. We're with Paris Alston, host of GBH News is Rooted, and Jeremy Siegel, host of GBH's In Common. Well, a local story that made some national waves that folks might have missed this week is news of basically a sanctuary for guinea pigs here just a few miles north of here in Salisbury, Massachusetts. Bit of a feature piece that kind of got picked up all over the place. What do we make of this incredible guinea pig sanctuary in Salisbury?
A piece in the Associated Press that's incredibly thoroughly reported. One fact that stuck out to me in this is that, there have been multiple incarnations of this guinea pig sanctuary, but the latest one, the official one here in Massachusetts, opened, I think, this year, and they already have 400 guinea pigs that they're caring for that come not just from New England, not just from Massachusetts, but all over the country. There's a big surplus of guinea pigs, people who either have, because you often get them in pairs because guinea pigs need a companion.
They need a friend.
A lot of the time you can end up with guinea pig babies, so people have babies that they can't care for
breed like
anymore.
guinea pigs, yeah.
And also I think there's this misconception that guinea pigs are the perfect starter pet, which they are in a way, and that they're low maintenance, but they're not purely low maintenance. So you have a number of people.
Do you have guinea pigs?
No, I
know
don't.
A lot of
I like to do research.
I know, but you are
owned a guinea
dropping
pig.
some serious guinea pig knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Do you want to hear some more guinea pig knowledge?
Bring it to us.
So other
I'm
countries,
curious,
other
Jeremy.
countries also have funny names for guinea pigs. For example, in Switzerland, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation here, but Meerschweinli, which the literal translation is ocean pig.
Ocean pig.
Yeah, they're actually named after the smallest kind of whale, which is colloquially called the ocean pig in Europe.
Okay.
Guinea pigs apparently named after them. In Russia, they call them little sea pigs is the translation of what they named them. The funny thing about guinea pigs, they're neither pigs nor from Guinea. They're rodents from Peru, right?
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah,
Paris,
I just think...
You going to one-up Jeremy on this one? Yeah, tell us about your guinea pig facts.
I don't have any guinea pig facts. I do. I had
you ever
hamsters
have
in my family.
Oh, you had hamsters.
Which are not... I was interested because they're not the same.
Yeah.
But I was like, these, small pets that people take on, especially for children, and to have, right, in the home... relatively easy, maybe not. But I was curious if guinea pigs eat their babies, because I know that hamsters do.
Rabbits will rabbits sometimes eat their babies as well.
And it's mostly because of if they're stressed, right? If they're not in conditions where they feel like they're safe, the mothers will sometimes turn to do this. So the first thought I had when I saw this lady had all these guinea pigs in one place was like, how many of them guinea pigs are stressed? And how many babies are too close to the stress? But I'm sure she's taking really great care of them.
Well, we're going to find out in just a moment. I'm going to throw some guinea pig facts at you really quick before we do that, Jeremy. Did you know that they cannot make their own vitamin C?
No, I did not.
But they need the
like
vitamin C, which is why you got to be careful what you feed them. Something like bell peppers is a good thing, apparently, to feed them so they get some vitamin C. And apparently, their teeth never stop growing, so they have to keep eating.
Really big,
they have to keep
teeth,
eating
right?
so it can make it sort of keep the teeth from growing too long. Fascinating, right? But for more on the guinea pig sanctuary, right now we have two special guests joining us via Zoom. That is right. Oh. No, it is not guinea pigs. It is, in fact, the centerpiece of this story. Sanctuary Director Kimmy Smotherson and Medical Care Coordinator Jacqueline Ranger. Kimmy, Jacqueline, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. Congratulations on all of this attention you've been getting this week. How we doing?
We're okay. Thank you.
You're doing okay. So you have one guinea pig there, it looks like, in your arms, Kimmy. So that means you have roughly, 399 others somewhere nearby.
So this location opened up in 2020, just to be clear.
Okay.
First we were open. We ended up with 80. Right now we are close to 400, but we take them from Texas and over to the East Coast, and the LA Guinea Pig Rescue takes Texas up to the West Coast. So that's how we split it. We're the second largest rescue in the United States, and we are the only pig rescue ever in the history of Massachusetts to have been licensed. So that in itself was a big feat.
That's incredible. And you said you've been doing it since 2020?
In this location.
In
2017. My grandson started this. He's a burn patient. He fell into a bonfire when he was 2. Around the age of 12, he found out that guinea pigs were non-bacterial for the most part. So he did one of those, opened a website, got business cards, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And then the business cards came in the mail. People started calling. And before you knew it, we had 40 of them. In 2019, the original sanctuary and our house burned down.
Oh, my gosh.
We were displaced for a year. It created a lot of issues. My youngest grandson, who was 7 at the time, didn't make it out of that fire. I ended up with a brain injury, and being displaced after getting out of ICU, people still started leaving guinea pigs outside of the hotel. Sorry for your loss. Please take care of us.
Wow.
And at that point, it was a very bad point. Everybody was depressed. It's hard losing a child. Plus, we lost like 43 guinea pigs in that fire. And I did not want to get out of bed. I was done. Yeah. But when people started leaving them outside, and we still have one in the sanctuary, his name is Fudge, and he was one of the first ones left outside the motel. Alex said, maybe this is God's way of saying, get your butt out of bed. There's something that you need to be doing. But now, as Jackie can tell you, she's also my best friend, I'm trapped and I can't get out of this. But if I could figure out how, I probably would. But Jackie can tell you about the whole eating babies thing, because that
I want to know, Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie, the big question on the table here is apparently we really need to know, do guinea pigs, when they are stressed, potentially eat their own babies?
Not that I'm aware.
Good. This is great. This is good news. I'm very happy to hear this, Jacqueline.
And I know you all are taking such great care of them.
Jackie, so what? This sounds like an absolutely Herculean task every day. This idea of multiple hundred guinea pigs that you got to take care of. What is the work like? How do you pull it off?
We have a lot of great volunteers that come in and help us. We have people come in who help feed the hay. We have people who come in to change waters, give them pellets, give them vegetables, clean their cages. We couldn't do it by ourselves.
Yeah. And how many volunteers are we talking about? Where do you find them? I'm astounded that you're able to pull this off.
We have about a good core group of volunteers, and maybe like 20 of us that come in consistently. And then people just can come out. If they come in the sanctuary and they want to help out, they can come in anytime and help us out.
I have a question.
Yeah, and then you add in, we have thousands of donating volunteers across the world. We don't get funding. Guinea pigs are their own category. So we don't fall under dog or cat laws or funding for those kind of animals. Guinea pigs, because they don't have a specific category for funding, means there is no funding. So every day we're doing raffles or fundraisers or literally just going across social media begging for money.
So in addition to actually taking care of them, you are doing all of the fundraising for the taking care of them.
We
as well.
have to. Just this year alone, our vet bill total is $32,520.81.
Wow.
And that's just as of this morning. And all of that money is donated by people. We have one lady named Maria. She donates usually about $1.16 after the conversion rate from the UK. Mason's Cavies in the UK donates. Scotty's Animals in California donates. Like, there's a lot of other places that send us money when they can to try to keep our heads above water or above the hay, because it costs us roughly $11,000 a month to keep this open.
Wow. That's unbelievable. Just for the record, Jeremy, you got a question, but it's guineapigsanctuary.org if folks are hearing this and want to kick in and donate to keep the guinea pig sanctuary thriving. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, it's along the lines of people who might want to donate. If somebody's listening and is like, I want a guinea pig, I've learned that there's no eating issues.
Yeah, they're not going to eat any of the other guinea pigs.
Can folks adopt from you? Like, one of the top comments on the AP story is someone being like, can you adopt from a sanctuary? Is that possible? Is that something you all do?
They're like,
Please.
If you want 100, go ahead.
Yes, exactly. We'll just give them the keys. We have a link from our website that has like Adopt a Pet that has all the guinea pigs that we have available for adoption. They can come in anytime. The only day we're not open to the public is Wednesdays, but you can come in anytime, volunteer, see what it's like. You can get experience with the hay and the guinea pigs to see if it's something that would fit in with your house.
Do they? I mean, do they all have names and do they have different personalities? I mean, can you tell them apart, or is it just like you are surrounded by like a wall of guinea pigs and you can't really sort of see past your own nose?
Oh no, they all have personalities and they're all very different. They all have names. Every guinea pig gets a name that come in.
Wait, what's this one's name?
This is Resusto. So Resusto was originally surrendered due to allergies, which seems to be a big complaint. But he's also like a free-roaming guinea pig. He thinks he's a puppy. So when we put him in his cage, he thinks he's being crated. So he gets time to walk around. He goes home with volunteers every once in a while. He's one of our attitude pigs. So he'll yell at us. He's
Unbelievable. All right, that's amazing. Thank you both. So our thanks to the Guinea Pig Sanctuary Director, Kimmy Smotherson, and Medical Care Coordinator, Jacqueline Ranger. I mean, incredible work that you're doing. Once again, guineapigsanctuary.org to help. Thank you both for being with us on the Curiosity Desk. And our thanks also for Jeremy Siegel, host of In Common, and Paris Alston, host of GBH News Rooted. Thanks for being with us here and ambling through our misfit headlines.
I'm happy to be here and happy to introduce you to the word Meerschweinli.
Meerschweinli. Meerschweinli, everybody. Up next, did you know...
That's a Meerschweinli?
Wow. Did you know that a legendary transgender woman directed the Farlow Herbararium at Harvard in the 1950s? That's after she spent time at the North Pole. We're going to find out more about her story in just a bit. Stay with us. This is the Curiosity Desk. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're live at the library. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review. We'll look at the untimely death of Hayden Panettiere and the Hollywood glare. Then a musical institution fades to silence. The Columbia House Record Club, which raked in billions of dollars selling records for pennies, is going the way of the penny. Plus, a royal return. Meghan and Harry are moving across the pond after 6 years stateside. We take on that and more today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Roto-Rooter, providing plumbing, drain cleaning, and water cleanup services in North America since 1935. 24/7 emergency services available. Service information and scheduling can be found at rotorooter.com. And M. Steinert & Sons Pianos, the region's authorized Steinway dealer, presents the return of the Symphony Hall Piano Event, Friday, September 11th through Sunday the 13th at Symphony Hall. msteinert.com.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're live at the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, today we're going to take a moment here on the Curiosity Desk to honor Transgender History Month, which, if you don't know, has been celebrated each August since 2021. Now, there are a number of remarkable tales to choose from when we think about the legacy of transgender folks with ties to Boston, but one really stuck out to us, and that is the story of Dr. Elka Mackenzie. Now, I won't spell out all the details, but this revolutionary researcher's findings forever changed the field of lichenology, and her public declaration of her identity was no small feat in the 1970s. Joining us today to talk about her legacy is Executive Director of Queer History Boston, Joan Ilacqua. Joan, welcome back to the Curiosity Desk. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
So how did you learn or come upon the story of Elka Mackenzie?
Yeah, so this one, so I am a queer public historian. I also do oral history. Several years ago, a local university asked me to come do an oral history interview, and Elka Mackenzie's name came up. And then since then, I've, dug up some more pieces about her legacy. And she's a local person who made international history, who I don't think most of us know about.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Elka Mackenzie's story. You mentioned Elka Mackenzie as a local person, but her story begins not locally here. I mean, by the time she comes to Massachusetts and Harvard, she's already really made a name for herself. So where did she come from? What was her early life like?
Yeah, so she is born in London in 1911. She moves to Scotland with her family. She goes to the University of Edinburgh, and then she starts studying lichen at the British Museum Natural History. It has an updated name now. But she becomes really fascinated by Antarctic lichen.
So what is lichen exactly?
So lichen, and you're going to have to excuse me if there's a lichenologist listening because I'm a history historian.
So apologies, are there any lichenologists in the Boston Public Radio crowd? No, I think we're safe. Go ahead. You can just make it up. Say whatever you want about lichen.
Beautiful. I'm going to get emails. So lichen is a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungi.
Okay.
So it's basically, lichen is all around us all the time. If you're not indoors, probably.
Right.
But if you take a walk in the woods, you know that stuff that looks like moss, but it's kind of dry?
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes sort of hairy? That's lichen.
That's lichen.
Yeah.
All right.
And so lichen can grow in all kinds of environments, really harsh environments like the Antarctic.
Got it.
Arid environments, and it's a bioindicator. So researchers can look at differences in how lichen has grown over time to learn things about how pollution affects a certain area.
So this was Dr. Elka Mackenzie's specialty is lichen.
Yeah, and lichen is notoriously difficult to ID. So she is really an expert in this, and she's chosen the hardest fungi essentially to be able to identify. Even now, some of the specimens that she's identified are being tested molecularly, and they're finding that she's correct a lot of the time.
Oh wow! So
just based on what she's looking at.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. So she becomes expert in particular in lichen. But she gets hired at Harvard. What was her role at Harvard? And presumably she had made quite a name for herself to be able to be invited to come to Harvard and do what she did.
Yeah. So before Harvard, in the 40s, she's actually part of a secret British operation in Antarctica. It's called Operation Tabarin. I might be mispronouncing that. But she's there with other scientists. It's part of this actually British international scheme to lay claim to Antarctica.
And this is like in the World War II era?
Yeah, 1943-ish.
I cannot... It is shocking to me that they have not made a BBC dramatic series about this. Because it's like World War II. It's like secret pro-British stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and they have
interesting.
these awesome photos in the archives of her
Here at Harvard.
In the UK.
In the UK.
National
In the
Archive.
UK. Yeah.
She's like mushing dog sled teams. They bring back over 1,000 specimens of lichen and other plant matter. So she becomes well known for that. She ends up in Argentina and then in Canada. She comes to the U.S. and starts working at the Farlow in 1953.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And what's she doing at the Farlow in the 50s?
Yeah, so she's the director of the herbarium. She is continuing her own research. She's been doing research on lichen at this point for decades. She's working on a book about stereocolon, which is, I guess, the most difficult type of lichen to ID within the difficult lichen to ID in the first place. And but she's kind of sorting things out. Those of us who work in archives and collections know that those who came before us do weird things, and you spend a lot of your time trying to figure out why.
What kind of
that.
weird things?
I mean, in our experience,
I see.
I will say, things like you open up a box and you find, I'm looking at my archivist in the audience, you find a ceramic foot warmer, and you're like, how is this gay? What does that have to do with gay history? And sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes you can figure out the connection. So, she's reclassifying things, she's reorganizing things as the director.
Just doing,
It's kind of normal archive-y collection.
Totally.
Things.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Joan Ilacqua from Queer History Boston about Dr. Elka Mackenzie. This is in honor of Transgender History Month, which is August. So Dr. Elka Mackenzie comes out as transgender during her time at Harvard. Is that right? So what do we know about the lead up to this, the moment it happens, and its aftermath? I mean, this is the 1970s when this happens?
So it's her experience and her really public way of coming out is relatively rare for us to find in queer history. Sometimes we know about trans folks because they've been arrested or they've been outed in some way.
Yeah.
And she comes publicly out to her professional field. In
how unusual is that in the mid-70s anywhere?
Pretty unusual, pretty rare.
Yeah.
But she's at Harvard. In the 60s, she actually ends up on another Antarctic secret voyage, this time for the U.S. She's naturalized as a U.S. citizen.
So wait, she goes to the Arctic.
Oh, no, she's always in Antarctica.
Oh, so both times. So once on a secret British mission and now on a secret American mission.
Yep. And then she continues that research. The American mission is called Operation...
Why are they all so secret? Why can't people be like, we're going to Antarctica to study lichen?
By the time we get to like the late 50s, the world is figuring out that we're not going to colonize Antarctica.
Right.
But before then, we're laying claim. We're trying to figure things out. Now it's scientific research. I think people are playing nice.
Yeah.
But less so
Got it.
in the mid-20th century. But yeah, anyway, so she's doing scuba at the time. She, through the 60s, though, is having really difficult issues with her mental health. She's married. Evidently, her wife had put the family into debt. There's one story that says she starts sleeping over at night in the Farlow and eating chips and Coca-Cola to try to...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's rough. And so she ends up separating, comes out as trans, transitions medically. She retires not too soon thereafter from Harvard, and there's differing opinions on if that was her decision or a joint decision. But she starts using the name Elka Mackenzie in her scientific research. One of her final papers, she acknowledges the help of Miss Elka Mackenzie in writing the paper. It's published under her former name. And in the last specimen that she collects and puts in the Farlow, it's credited to Elka Mackenzie.
Wow.
Yeah. And so 1976, she comes out publicly in a professional journal and says that she should now be addressed as Dr. Elka Mackenzie.
Do we know anything about what the reaction was like in the wider scientific community, what the reaction was like locally at Harvard? I mean, do we have any understanding of personally what she was going through as this was happening?
Yeah, there's a little bit written by a friend, Lawrence Selnick, who was a professor at Tufts, who had a theater troupe that she came out to because it was a friendly gay theater troupe.
Yeah.
And that it was very difficult to her. She also talks to one of her mentees while in Antarctica and says, I'm planning to transition. He says, are you sure about this? And she says, I have to do it. I'm depressed. I can't go on like this, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to keep doing my research. And that's what she tries to do after she transitions.
You said, like, after the transition, it's not too long before she retires from Harvard. And then what happens? Does she go elsewhere and do more science, or does she get out of the field?
Yeah, she keeps doing work at Harvard, but mostly on nights, weekends, and holidays. She would sign into the guest book, so there's records of her coming in. Security was less intense, and they let her keep her key. So she came in and kept doing work. But she ultimately, she moves to Costa Rica. She's doing research there. She has this pattern through her life of the specimens she's collecting getting destroyed. She has bad luck. So one time in the 40s or 50s, she's in Brazil or Argentina and loses a ton of specimens when they, blow out of a cart on horseback. The Costa Rican specimens, I think, burned down in a fire. So, that's not great. She comes home in 1980. She gets really into building replicas of seamen's chests,
Like woodworking?
Like woodworking. I don't know, I will say.
I'm not sure what I thought you were going to say, but I did not see that coming.
That was her next interest. I don't know definitively if she was a lesbian or if would have called herself a lesbian, but what a lesbian hobby. I want to get into woodworking. And so she is diagnosed with ALS in 1983 and dies in 1990. But, she, like I said, just this person who doesn't get a lot of credit or attention for her bravery in coming out, but also for all of her work with lichen. I guess that about 90% of lichen species have not ever been described.
Wow.
Like a huge amount. And, she's made it her life's work to go out and find it.
What is it about you that is, I mean, aside from the fact that, as you say, you're a historian and you're at an organization that is looking at and documenting queer history, but like among the hundreds, if not thousands of things you could be spending your time digging into, looking into people, what is it about Elka Mackenzie's story that has captured your imagination and attention?
Yeah, I think one interesting thing about doing queer history is that we don't have a ton of individual person hero stories.
Yeah.
It's not like, I can't be I don't know who the gay George Washington is, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I find it fascinating to find stories of people who are relatively everyday people and bringing those to the forefront so that, people who might be thinking about gender now or who might be queer biologists can look at this and be like, somebody already started to open the door, started to trod the path that I'm on now. And I think that can be really powerful when, you don't encounter queer history in schools most of the time, for instance.
Speaking of queer history, as we said August since 2021 is Transgender History Month. How did that effort sort of get started, and what are you doing at Queer Boston besides coming on the show here to celebrate the month?
Yeah, so it got started officially in 2021 in the Bay Area. It started as an effort to highlight the contributions of trans people in San Francisco, and then in 2023 it went national. So we have Pride Month in June, we have LGBTQ plus History Month in October, now we have Trans History Month, and what we're doing right now, summer is we're a little more loose. We will be having an LGBTQ plus picnic on the Harbor Islands on Sunday, so hopefully the weather holds out. And actually, we're gearing up for a large panel of Black trans activists in October. So that's going to be our big LGBTQ plus history event this fall. Yeah. And that'll take place here at the BPL.
Here?
Yeah, I don't know that the RSVP is online yet, but mark your calendar, October 29th. It's going to be awesome.
October 29th, right here at the BPL. All right, we've been speaking with Joan Ilacqua, Executive Director from Queer History Boston. Like we said, if you're interested in hearing more from Joan and the folks over at Queer History Boston, ton of events coming up. She was just talking about it. That special one, Boston Public Library, October 29th, celebrating the work of Black transgender activists. Joan, thanks so much for being with us again here on the Curiosity Desk. By the way, more details on Joan and their work, queerhistoryboston.org. When we return, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's thousands of monarch butterflies making making their incredible migration south to Mexico. More mysterious, they taste with their feet? Is that even true? We're going to find out. This is the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
On All Things Considered, you get the big stories,
What are you hearing from sources inside the agency?
the pressing questions,
Congressman, how do you respond to that?
and moments of joy to keep you going.
It took me a few days. I perfected it.
Really? Can I hear that?
End your day on a high note with All Things Considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Boston Ski and Tennis, offering indoor skiing and snowboarding this summer with Boston Metro's only immersive simulator experience. Available in the Newton location. Learn more online at bostonskiandtennis.com. And Subaru of New England. The all-wheel drive 2026 Subaru Outback is designed for summer adventures. Subaru retailer locations at subaruofnewengland.com.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are live at the Boston Public Library. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, across New England right now, thousands of monarch caterpillars are snuggling into their chrysalises. Try to say that one even just one time fast. And making their transformation into majestic monarch butterflies. Next, they will take a harrowing odyssey to a single square kilometer in the forest in the heart of Mexico. Sounds incredible, but even more incredible is the obsession with these bugs by our friend and colleague in the newsroom, GBH reporter Craig LeMoult. Craig has filed like 6 or 7 stories this week he's doing newscasts, and yet he has still found the time to meticulously care rearing several butterflies in his backyard and spam our Curiosity Desk Slack channel with updates of every little development along the way. His enthusiasm is matched, though his knowledge is dwarfed by the woman joining him today, Abby Robinson. You might remember she was with us on the show last month to talk about fireflies. Abby's a postdoctoral fellow at the Owens Lab at Harvard's Rowland Institute and a lepidopterist whose PhD research was on butterflies. And then we also have Craig. Abby, Craig, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Craig, you've brought some specimen with you. What did you bring? And tell us what you've been up to. Apparently, for 5 or 6 years now in your backyard.
It's been a while. I've lost track of how long we've been doing this, but I've brought a few friends here. These are monarch caterpillars. And they are very bright and colorful and beautiful little critters, as you can see.
If I pick this up, am I gonna?
Yeah,
are they gonna go running away or anything? I just want to make sure the folks
moving.
here. So if you're following us on YouTube,
you
we got a good look right there at the.
We got a big guy and a little guy here.
Here he is. Black. They look like black, white, and yellow striped. One is very, very fat, and one is very, very not fat.
The little guy just hasn't had enough time to keep eating milkweed. They're both very hungry caterpillars, and they are doing great. In a little while, they will turn into chrysalises, which is a completely crazy thing to watch if you actually happen to capture it when it's happening. It happens quickly. The other day, I had a caterpillar that looked like it was ready to become a chrysalis. They actually hang from a leaf in the J-shaped when they're about to become chrysalises. So you know what's about to happen. And I looked away for 10 minutes, and I looked back, and there was a chrysalis there. And, we have a picture of what they look like. That's
the J-shape.
That's the J-shape.
It does look like a J.
And then, so by way of background, I used to live just outside of Boston, and there was a butterfly garden in a park across the street. And we had a neighbor and friend, shout out to Ted Kuglinski. He's the one who sort of was a mentor to show us how to raise these caterpillars into butterflies. And the deal is, it's just that we find the eggs on these leaves. The butterflies only lay their eggs on the underside of milkweed, just this one species of plant. And if you know what to look for, you can find these eggs. And then we take them into a container and we raise them. The caterpillars hatch, and then they grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they turn into a chrysalis, which is this beautiful little green packet that hangs from a leaf. and then in about 10 days, a butterfly comes out. And the reason that we're doing it is both because it's an amazing thing to watch, and it's so beautiful and it's so fascinating, but also the idea for us that we're hoping to do is as a conservation method. Like they're very vulnerable to predators. All kinds of things can eat the
guinea pigs.
Yeah, all sorts of things think that they're delicious. So we figure if we keep them in a container, and so we have them at home. We have it's sort of a tent, if you will.
Yeah.
A mesh tent that we have outside, and we have a jar with milkweed in there, and that's what they're on. So it's just an amazing thing to watch, and it's really beautiful, and we hope that maybe it can help caterpillars to turn into butterflies.
Right. Abby, let's fact check Craig a little bit here. First of all, you are the scientist here, so let's find out, is what Craig is saying accurate, and is he right to be this excited about doing this kind of work?
I think he's definitely right to be excited about it, for sure. I think that there are, obviously, like anything, differing opinions about this in the field. I think
differing opinions in that some people are like, humans shouldn't intervene in this, or?
I think really what it comes down to is rearing them in your yard or at home is a great tool for education.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily going to save the monarchs, right?
Got it.
I think that, people want to really emphasize this is a great way to learn about these organisms, get people excited about them, a great educational tool, but it should also be paired with things like planting milkweed in your yard, maintaining pollinator, nectar sources, pollinator flowers, and then contributing to citizen science. Honestly, and we've talked about this too, a great thing to do if you're rearing these caterpillars in your yard is to also update that data with citizen science. There's a lot of really great programs that would really love to get data about, how these caterpillars are developing. You can tag them, and then we can try to understand the migration, that sort of thing, too.
All right, you're listening to The Curiositas. We're talking with GBH's Craig LeMoult and lepidopterist with Harvard's Owen Lab, Abby Robinson, about monarch butterflies. Okay, so let's talk about monarch. I think most people can probably picture the monarch butterfly. It is the sort of orange and black butterfly, classic butterfly thing. What is the status of the monarch butterfly? What do they do? Why are they important? And, do we have enough of them right now?
So monarchs have obviously been in decline for many, many years. I think that they seem to be bouncing back a little bit in Mexico. So I think recent, measurements from last year indicate that, we're maybe recovering a little bit, which is great. Hopefully that will continue to happen. Why are they important? They are, important to different food webs. They're, they also pollinate. They're a great pollinator. And their migration that they do is just kind of insane, right?
So let's talk about, let's get into the migration.
Yeah.
So this is coming when? This migration?
So the monarchs here will probably start migrating between now and maybe early October. So they'll be leaving Boston or passing through Boston during that time.
Okay, so which means these guys here are flying to Mexico.
Yeah, so let's talk about it.
How bonkers is that?
Right. So all of the monarch butterflies that are here, and all of the monarch butterflies, everywhere in the U.S.? They all go to one spot in Mexico?
So some on the other side of the Rocky Mountains will go to a place in California, but all of the monarchs here and on that eastern.
It's like
half,
baseball spring training. The East Coast teams go to Florida, the West Coast teams go to Arizona. It's okay, but how do they do this, and why do they do this? Why do they all go to one spot?
Yeah, so the reason they go to the one spot is they overwinter there. So they go to these mountainous forests in central Mexico, and they go there specifically because they can be in this area where the temperatures hover right above freezing. So they're cold, but not too cold, and they can be sort of buffered by the fir trees there. So they kind of cluster in the trees, and that allows them to sort of enter almost like a hibernation state. They just sort of chill there.
Like a fugue state? Yeah. They're just sort of kind of almost asleep, but still awake?
Yeah, basically.
And you've been there when this is happening.
You have?
Yes, I did go a few years ago.
What's it like?
It's crazy.
How many butterflies are we talking? Is it millions?
So we were actually just talking about this too. So they measure them by distance. So it's been estimated that I think it's about 20 million monarchs will be in about 1 hectare of space. So that's I think that's 1 hectare is about 1.5 football fields.
Yeah.
And so we measure the number of monarchs based on how many hectares they're occupying.
That's nutty though.
Yeah.
That is a
It's crazy.
collection of monarch
Very
butterflies
dense.
all in one spot.
Mhm.
How many of them make it in the migration? Like, is the migration dangerous itself? Like, do they get taken out along the way?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I think I don't think that's something we fully understand yet. Is how many make it. And being able to track them better would be really, really helpful for that. But yeah, it's definitely dangerous. Like, it requires a lot of energy stores. So like this generation that's migrating now is actually entering like a state of a reproductive diapause, and so they're trading off their ability to reproduce in order to be able to store up more energy.
So these ones are different. They're
They're
going
moving
after
around
each other actually a little bit. These ones are different than the caterpillars earlier in the season. Actually, they are bigger and stronger and ready for that move.
So how do they know how do they know where to go and how to get there?
So they orient, they have like an internal clock, and they orient based on the position of the sun, and also like Earth's magnetic field. So I think there's a lot about orientation that we don't fully understand yet, but the general idea is that they are picking a direction. So they know the direction to go, and they can find that direction based on the sun, and they just go in that direction.
This is crazy. You're listening to Curiositas. We're talking with GBH's Craig LeMoult and lepidopterist from Harvard's Owen Lab, Abby Robinson, about monarch butterflies. All right, Craig, this is your chance to ask the expert. What have you been wondering in this 5 years that you've been carefully rearing these caterpillars in your backyard in your spare time?
One thing I've been wondering about is that if you look carefully at them, they have antenna on their front end and
their
on
back
their
end.
back end.
Yeah, head antenna and butt antenna.
Abby, what's that all about?
So the antennae are important for like sensing their environment and like moving through space. But I think the main reason they have them on both ends is a predator avoidance strategy, so that the predators don't know which end is actually the head.
Does that matter for a predator, though? They're going after the head, I guess,
Yeah, I feel like I'd rather them eat my butt than my head.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, the bright colors are a predator avoidance, right?
They are, yeah. That's a warning color, because these guys are very toxic.
They are
toxic
very
to
toxic.
whom?
To, well, they're probably small enough that it wouldn't be super toxic for you,
Yeah.
but definitely for birds and
Wow.
other predators that eat them.
Edgar, do not eat the caterpillars.
I will not eat the caterpillars. Speaking of eating caterpillars, we got a text from Paula in Hingham who says, I raise them myself because it seems like the ants that patrol the milkweed eat all the baby caterpillars before they can ever get to be a decent size. What is the survival rate of a wild monarch on a milkweed? It seems like they almost all get eaten. Paula in Hingham wants to know.
That's a great question. I don't know an actual number, but I think definitely pretty low. I think that's actually the reason why female monarchs will lay like hundreds of eggs, because the individual survival
success rate is pretty low.
Is pretty low for a single one.
So, but the eggs presumably not as toxic as or are they?
I think they might.
They are.
Yeah.
Man, people gotta watch what they eat. Go.
And you mentioned this earlier, but one of the things that we really can do to try to help the monarch out is planting more milkweed. This kind of became a thing for us because we allowed milkweed to grow in our garden, something that we ordinarily probably would have pulled out. This is a weed. It's not something we planted there. But once we learned about it, we thought, oh, okay, let's leave it there. And it's actually kind of an attractive plant. And then we get all of these caterpillars, and then you get a lot more butterflies, and they're also, the butterflies are pollinating our flowers. So I think a lot of people don't necessarily know that they should have milkweed in their gardens.
So milkweed, good.
Milkweed, good.
All right, it's good weed. Got a question from Gary asking, how do they reproduce?
So the caterpillars don't reproduce. They reproduce as adults, and they,
So once they become a butterfly.
Once they become a butterfly is when they reproduce.
Then it's a mommy butterfly and a daddy butterfly
Yes,
share a very special hug when they're in love.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
In like mid-flight, or they do it like on the ground or on a plant or something?
Most butterflies do like a spiral dance, so they'll like fly around, and then they'll go down into the bushes.
That's amazing.
Very good stuff.
And I got to say, the idea, the other thing I really wanted to ask you about is the chrysalis itself. This beautiful little green packet. I have several questions about this. For one thing, if you look closely at a chrysalis, there is this beautiful gold crown around the top of it. Does that serve some function? Why is there that gold crown?
Yeah, so I believe we don't know. So I think that would be a great thing to look into if anyone wanted to do that research project. I think there's been a lot of different hypotheses, one of which is that might be some sort of predator deterrence signal. or it could be like reflecting light in an important way.
And is it also true that inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar liquefies and then reforms as a butterfly?
Yeah, sort of. So some of the structures for the adult do begin forming in like the late stage caterpillars. So like the the structures that will eventually become the wings are starting to form there. So those will stay intact, but then the rest of the monarch or the rest of the caterpillar tissue gets degraded and kind of gooified, and then
gooified.
Those
the technical term is gooified.
Yeah, and then those cell clusters will kind of replicate and continue to grow into the new adult structures.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. We've been speaking with GBH reporter and butterfly enthusiast Craig LeMoult and Abby Robinson, lepidopterist and postdoctoral fellow at the Owens Lab at Harvard's Roland Institute. Jared Bowen, host of The Culture Show, joining us up here on the dais at the Boston Public Library. Did you ever raise butterflies as a kid or anything like that?
I didn't, but I was just thinking sometimes there are birds in here, so I'm glad that there aren't any
yeah, it's
birds
true.
in
The
here
pigeon,
today.
you see a pigeon just come like squawking down to like snap up.
They're quite juicy.
Yum. Yeah, they are pretty juicy. They do look pretty juicy. Well, Jared, you've got your Arts and Culture Week in Review coming here at the library in just a few minutes. What's on the docket today?
Well, of course, we'll be talking about Hayden Panettiere and her untimely death and all of the notions it resurfaces about child stars and what it means to grow up in that industry and how much did that come into play here. We'll talk about Phoebe Bridgers. I don't know if you've heard her new song that calls out the Liberty Tree Mall. Everybody's talking about that, so we'll talk about why they're talking about that. Meghan and Harry are headed back to the UK.
I was going to say, if Callie's on the show, I'm sure you're talking about Meghan and Harry today, so that's good to hear.
And then finally, we'll have a dissection of Rosie O'Donnell's week, subbing for Jimmy Kimmel and all she had to say with her history with the president.
Indeed, indeed. All right, that's Jared Bowen and the Arts and Culture Week in Review from The Culture Show, coming to you live here at the Boston Public Library and on the air and on YouTube in less than 2 minutes, so do not go anywhere. As for us, that about does it for now. Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, and Hannah Loss. Our interns, Mukta Dharma Purikar, Patty Daniels, and Jamie Bologna. Give us butterflies when we see them. Our engineers, John LeClaw Parker. Special thanks to Bill Piacitelli, our host of the Newsfeed Cafe, the Lennox across the street, our security team, Darius and Derek. All of you who came to see us at the library, it's always great to see you down here. We will be right back on Monday, 89.7, and streaming on YouTube. If you can't wait that long, check out the podcast. Till next time, have a great weekend. I'm Edgar Breharwick III. I hope you will stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show. Next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and members of the GBH Champions and Beacon Circles. These most generous annual contributors lead the way in sustaining GBH as a public media resource available and free to all. Learn more at gbh.org/support.
Tonight, the undisputed queen of country music shares her inspiring story. Learn about her humble beginnings and the challenges that made her so successful and well-loved. It's Dolly Parton, Here I Am, tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon with the latest from the GBH Culture Show News Desk. I'm Craig LeMoult. Tonight at Tanglewood, joining the Boston Pops, it's Grammy, Emmy, and Tony Award-winning, 3-time Academy Award-nominated actress, singer, author, and producer Cynthia Erivo.
So if you care to find me to the western sky, has someone told...
Erivo arrived on Broadway in the 2015 revival of The Color Purple, and of course was widely acclaimed for her portrayal of Elphaba in the 2-part film adaptation of Wicked. This winter she'll premiere a one-woman show called Dracula. She'll join conductor Keith Lockhart and the Pops tonight for selections from a range of genres and composers. Or if you're in the mood for something different, tonight at Leaderbank Pavilion in Boston, it's the Yacht Rock Review. The group is billed as the world's premier soft rock party band.
In China, there's a film in the theaters now that's a pretty extreme example of the maxim that sometimes a movie is so bad, it's good. It's called Niolai, and it's the story of a newborn calf on a dreamlike journey that's so crudely animated and weirdly voiced it's become viral. Niolai! After making less than $1,500 in the first 10 days after its release, people started sarcastically recommending it. The box office surged to $1.2 million on Monday alone. And a new Marvel superhero series debuts on HBO this Sunday. Kyle Chandler stars as Hal Jordan, the first human to serve in the intergalactic police force known as the Green Lanterns. The new show is called simply Lanterns.
Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light.
The first Green Lantern was introduced in comic books in 1940. That's it for this edition of the GBH News Friday Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Craig LeMoult. Next up, it's The Culture Show with Jared Bowen at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, it's our Week in Review. The death of Hayden Panettiere, from her early career as a child actress in Remember the Titans to her superpowered role as a teenager in Heroes, to her tempestuous turn as a Nashville rising star, Panettiere spent her whole life in the spotlight. We'll look at the impact a Hollywood upbringing has on young actors. From there, remembering Bill Rasmussen. He was the visionary founder of ESPN who turned a $91 incorporation fee into a multi-billion-dollar broadcasting behemoth. We'll consider the legacy of the man who changed the way we talk and think about sports. Plus, Club Closed, the 70-year-old Columbia House mail-order club, which offered records for pennies, at least to start, is taking its last orders. But perhaps the bigger surprise is that it still even existed. And Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are on the move. After a 6-year stint in the U.S., the former royals plan to return to the U.K. After their California dreamin', it seems they hear London calling. We take on all that and more right now on our Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
This is The Culture Show, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm Jared Bowen.
I'm Callie Crossley.
And I'm James Sullivan.
We're going over the latest arts and culture headlines in our Week in Review, starting with the death of actress Hayden Panettiere at age 36. She was a child star in films like A Bug's Life and Remember the Titans. Grew into a global millennial icon as a superpowered cheerleader, Claire Bennett in Heroes, NBC's smash sci-fi hit with the famous tagline, "Save the cheerleader, save the world." And then she earned widespread critical acclaim, not to mention 2 Golden Globe nominations for her turn in the musical drama series Nashville. But Panettiere's path was fraught, as she detailed in her recent memoir, This Is Me, A Reckoning. And her untimely death has resurfaced an industry-old debate in a system where vulnerable young performers are often abused. Can anything be done to prevent the curse of the child star? Of course, this doesn't happen with everybody who grows up in the childhood realm in the glare of the media spotlight. Look at the Harry Potter actors. Look at Jodie Foster, even well before that, when the system was less supervised. But we do know from the way that she's talked about her life over the years that there was a lot of pressure there, that there was people on her own team feeding her amphetamines as a child. And this is something that she struggled to control through the rest of her life. And we all knew this. This is so much of the problem a lot of the times, like somebody like Corey Haim and others, where it's very transparent, it's out there, and yet something like this still ends this way.
Well, I think you're in the context of a very, very tough business to begin with. And so as you grow to adulthood, it doesn't really leave you if you didn't get that foundation at the beginning of some kind of protection. And I look at some of the child stars that seem to have done fairly well, and for the most part they have those parents that are just not kidding around. They're like right there blocking a lot of the interference that might have happened. In her case, as she said, she was estranged from her mother. We don't know all the details there, so maybe that was an opportunity that didn't happen. I don't know. So there's so many factors involved, not the least of which is the person herself. We don't know, what she had going for herself in order to be able to be strong enough to to withstand the peer pressure and all the industry stuff as well.
This sadly is a reminder of the story that we just talked about a couple weeks ago, the Ariana Grande story, where, you know, are her fans doing their duty by paying attention to what they perceive to be her struggles? It's very hard to comment on this type of story. Unfortunately, I think this is another reminder, the Hayden story is another reminder that many of our most creative and expressive people are also very often some of our most fragile or vulnerable people, and it's just sad.
Well, especially because I think people often make the link that because these actors are able to access something so many other people aren't, to find dimensions of emotionality or the human condition, humanity, that they see things, feel things that so many others can't, that carries through off the stage, off screen as well. I really only came to know her through the television series Nashville more than a decade ago, where she had extraordinary talent. Here's Hayden Panettiere as a country starlet, Juliet Barnes, in season 1 of Nashville. Here's where we could hear that she could also sing. She's performing the song, "Tempestuous young star trying to climb her way up" against a sort of Reba McEntire-esque character played by Connie Britton. But this is also where Hollywood comes to an area where they shouldn't, because she talked about in her memoir and in these interviews she gave recently as this year, as she was talking about her memoir, that she was suffering from postpartum depression and she was suffering from substance abuse, and they began to write some of those themes into the series and into the character. And this is after she took some time off for that show. So here you are trying to get your life together off screen, you feel like you're in a position to return to your show, and then you're having to perform this storyline about something that you just tried to deal with in real life. And she said that she was afraid to go up against the producers, go up against the writers and say, don't do this to me, because this is a system where if you do that, we know time and time again, people get fired and they get a reputation.
Well, the other thing that she didn't have was the support of some of her outside commitments. So she was a spokesperson for Neutrogena. Neutrogena's just made a statement in the wake of her death to say, hey, we are very sorry for her loss, and perhaps we didn't offer her the support she needed. In fact, they dismissed her from the role after learning that she had postpartum depression. So that was another pressure, too. So you had to be perfect, and then if you admit, I'm struggling through this, and there's some commerce involved, the company didn't feel that was a good look. Now, was there a way for them to embrace that and embrace her too? I don't know, but that's what happened.
As a child actor, she had a very memorable role in Remember the Titans, Denzel Washington football movie, where she's yelling at a ref, and that was probably one of the most memorable moments of that film. She, to stay on the sports tip for a second, the boyfriend that she had before the current one, Vladimir Klitschko, who was a heavyweight champion of the world, not the brother who was I think another heavyweight champion, but is now the mayor of Kyiv.
Right.
So I mean, lived a big life, but it certainly ended much too soon.
Well, Hayden Panettiere's legacy is not the only one remembered this week. Sports television pioneer Bill Rasmussen has died at 93. The ESPN founder's far-sighted ambition fueled the world's first 24-hour network devoted entirely to the sports ecosystem, ushering in a new era of athletic entertainment. Here's a taste of all he launched.
If you're a fan, what you'll see in the next minutes, hours, and days to follow may convince you you've gone to sports heaven. Beyond that blue horizon is a limitless world of sports, and right now you're standing on the edge of tomorrow. Sports, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with ESPN, the Total Sports Cable Network.
As long as, that's hit well to center field. Finley goes back. It's over. It's over! Jameer Nelson was as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Sammy, it is your world, kid. The rest of us just paying rent.
Remember where you were. There is winning. There is winning in style. There is winning with guts. All that tonight. The Patriots have another Super Bowl. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady have done it again.
Well, it all just seems so obvious now,
Yes.
but it's really fascinating to go back and be reminded of the inception of ESPN and everything that Bill Rasmussen envisioned. I mean, there are so many layers to this story that I find fascinating. Here's a man who's in his mid-40s who's gotten fired from his job as a communications officer for a sports team, but has this long-term vision that there's a way to take this new satellite technology and beam it out and work with the networks and work with the major leagues and others to be able to do 24-hour sports programming and do it all 9 months before CNN launched. And now look at the behemoth it is today.
That just amazed me. I didn't know that part of the story until now. Shame on me. But he leveraged all his stuff and spent $9,000 getting this satellite space. I mean, he was really committed. And I guess he had just decided if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. His original plan was to be 24 hours across Connecticut, then realized, oh, there's a bigger deal. I think it's interesting that there's been some conversation about his net worth at death. So $10 million from the ESPN holdings. He sold his stake, the family sold his stake in 1984 to ABC for $6 million. So they didn't get the full of what he might have gotten later on. But I always remember my dad saying to me at one point when we would say, oh my God, another game somewhere. And he said, there's a game on somewhere. And it's all, and he just loved that. So he was the perfect person to really be into this concept that 24 hours a day you could find some sports.
We talked a few weeks ago about the passing of Ted Turner and the fact that CNN was the first 24-hour news network, but Bill Rasmussen and ESPN beat them to that game. You know, I mean, I actually don't think I was aware that that was the very first 24-hour TV network. And that's less than 50 years ago. Some of those clips sound like ancient history, you know. But obviously, there's you can't. I don't know how you would gauge the impact of what ESPN has done to the culture from what Callie just said.
Well, I think it's embedded. I mean, I think it's huge.
Yeah, and then to the the betting of more recent years. Yeah, but that's a whole other subject. Jared, you said he was the communications director of a sports team, not just any sports team, the Hartford Whalers, which, you know, a New England institution, the beloved Hartford Whalers. There are still people in Connecticut who absolutely worship their long-lost, lamented hockey team.
And he also worked as a journalist out in Amherst for a time and then moved his way onto television in Springfield. That's when from there he moved behind the scenes to work in communications. But this is also a man who took what he loved and gambled on that, basically.
Yes.
Callie, you said he leveraged everything, putting $9,000 in the 1970s on his credit card to get this launched, because he thought that if he had an interest in talking about sports, if he had an interest in playing sports 24 hours, then perhaps other people would. I mean, again, everything that he did seems so obvious today, especially in New England, where we are sports heaven. But to your point, James, the way he changed the conversation about sports, the way he changed entertainment around sports, and there's a lot of discussion now about the ESPN he founded versus the ESPN today, which is kind of struggling, and it's completely morphed from what it was. It's struggling because streaming has taken a bite out of their big cable Apple. We don't talk about, I think in large measure, we talk about sports the way we do today and look at sports and put money around sports the way we do because of what he did.
And you talk about how he impacted the culture long term. So two things. You mentioned he was there with his beginning ESPN network before CNN. But more than that, just to think about 24-hour anything and niche programming. Niche programming now, because of streaming too, is all the rage. So for him to understand that he could separate out, well, for that matter, whoever did the Weather Channel, same deal. You know, I mean, it's really quite fascinating to think.
Why haven't we done a 24-hour culture show yet?
I don't know. We need one.
Like never-ending culture show.
Yes,
that's what we need to do.
We do. No joke.
There would be no lack of interest. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Rasmussen once said, "The harder you work, the luckier you are," and that is a great quote, and it's such an old-fashioned quote. You know, I mean, I don't know how many people in this country today would necessarily agree with that, but it's a lovely thought, and he embodied it.
Well, the other part of this is when Disney came along and bought ESPN, it's supercharged to Disney, too, because they came along just at the right time. They were able to ride that rocket, and it became incredibly lucrative for them. Well, coming up, this is one hard to believe, Columbia House, the 71-year-old mail-order music club, is playing its last final chords. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Next time on In Common, going to the beach is not an easy feat.
You're like, wait, what is going on here that it's all there and I can't necessarily easily get to that?
Why Massachusetts beaches are so exclusive, and a trip to the Berkshire Mushroom Festival.
I have extraordinary experience with psychedelics.
Plus, horseshoe crabs are not crabs at all. Listen Saturday at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com. And the Art Complex Museum in Duxbury, presenting Scenes of the Sea through September 6th, and the Outdoor Sculpture Exhibit Under Construction, America at 250 through August 2027. All exhibits open to the public. artcomplex.org. And Boston Ski and Tennis, helping New England families stay active this summer by offering a range of racket sports products and services, with locations in Newton and Westboro or online at bostonskiandtennis.com.
Listen to GBH 89.7, read GBH Daily, and watch the Boston Public Radio live stream. However you get your news, find it on the GBH News app. Download it today on the App Store or Google Play.
I'm Jared Bowen. Welcome back to The Culture Show. We are live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm joined by co-host Callie Crossley and contributor James Sullivan, a journalist and author specializing in popular culture and Americana. He's also on the faculty of Emerson College. I just want to make one personal mention. My mother's best friend is in the audience today. She's celebrating a big birthday. So if you see Jeanette from Upton, Massachusetts, wish her a happy 120th birthday today. I'll never get invited to Thanksgiving again. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes the end of an entertainment era. Founded in 1955, Columbia House Music Club began as a mail-order music service, promising discount records and delivered directly to consumers. By the mid-90s, it peaked with 16 million members and billions of dollars in revenue, thanks in part to one legendary jingle.
Best stars and best albums. Don't miss this great deal on all the music you love to hear.
I mean, this whole thing was such a pyramid scheme and so bananas. And first of all, I mean, there's so many things to talk about. One, that it's even still in existence. But remember, this was the thing that you could get like 1,400 albums for 3 cents. But then they counted on you forgetting to send back your no, I don't want the album of the month, for which you'd pay about $300. Okay, so I'm exaggerating a little bit. But this was their whole model, which was stupid because nobody could do the math, and it worked. So it actually wasn't stupid. It was brilliant.
It was totally brilliant. And those ads were somehow compelling. Even if you weren't buying anything, you just started listening to the whole daggone thing. I had no idea they had multiple owners over the years, filed bankruptcy, and then had this totally shady reputation. So you just explained that it was a pyramid scheme to begin with. Okay, so I always thought it was a low-level pyramid scheme. I didn't realize it was a really, really shady one.
Oh, wait, but before you go on, how many of us at this table did the Columbia House?
I didn't do it. I just knew about it.
Oh, yeah.
I never did it. I just watched it. I was very interested in it.
For those listening, James and I raised their hands. Our hands. Callie didn't.
I did not. But I did not realize that if you subscribed and, signed up for it, they kept billing you for 900 years afterwards, and you could never escape, no matter what. Some people are doing that right now, but I didn't realize that. So that's how they were making so much money at the time.
I raised my hand but didn't say anything because I'm not sure that I want to say anything about this because I think I'd be implicating myself. I know that I began building my record collection by sending in the penny or whatever you did and getting the first dozen records when I was probably in middle school or high school, and I think I might have skipped out on the on the process of then buying as many records as you needed to fulfill the contract.
Well, I was remembering this morning. So you're at Emerson College. I went to Emerson College, and I remember that you could not sign up and have anything sent to 80 Boylston Street, our dorm, because all the kids, especially Emerson kids, all arts kids, we all signed up. We all used different names. We all used all the things.
God.
So they just said that there must have been a major blacklist with all the addresses you no longer send to when we were on it.
Go ahead, Kelly.
No.
Oh, I have a couple. So how many of us, a show of hands, I know that nobody's going to raise their hand. How many people in the room knew that they were in the business of sending DVDs for the last decade?
I did not. I had no idea.
Yeah, and I also didn't know that they started as far back as 1955, which is basically just the very beginning of albums. Like before that, it was 78s. And then 45. So I'm kind of guessing that Columbia House probably started with sending 45s. It's little singles, 7-inch singles to homes until people started switched over to albums. And then it cycled through 8-tracks and cassettes and probably continued to sell vinyl records.
Well, and then into CDs.
Almost exactly, and CDs, exactly. So I mean, there's quite a bit of history there.
So this is why we don't have to have a lot of guilt for maybe exploiting the system, because I didn't realize until I was going through the research that it was actually the club, not the studios that were manufacturing the albums. So you were getting these downgraded albums. I remember getting some of them, in the liner notes or the cover on the CD would just be one page, and you thought, well, this doesn't really seem right. Wow. This doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, it was probably somebody just down the street at a photocopy machine making these and sending them to us, and then charging $18.99 in the 90s.
How did they get away with this? Why weren't they sued more?
They were sued, actually. There was a major lawsuit a number of years ago with a $143 million settlement for a class action lawsuit in 2003.
Wow. I had no idea. They seemed legit to me, and they had a great jingle, so there you go.
Well, if you're still a member of the club, and certainly nobody's going to raise their hand here, you have until the middle of September 15th, to place your final order. So buy one for half price and get more. No, buy one for like double the price and then get 3 more for $8.99. That's what all the people who worked there said. Even they couldn't do the math. They couldn't figure out what this was all about.
Too crazy.
All right. Well, next, Grammy-winning musician Phoebe Bridgers released her latest album, Lost Weekend, last Friday. Many here were stunned to find it featured a nod to a North Shore mainstay, the Liberty Tree Mall. The Danvers Shopping Center provides a perfect setting for the crestfallen crooner's meditations on romance in a despondent world.
Liberty Tree Mall, in the photo booth, this place is dying. We don't care if we're living proof. I'm sticking out my tongue and lifting up my shirt. Not getting any younger, honey, but if we don't try, how can we be sure?
At its peak, the Liberty Tree Mall welcomed shoppers with department stores, an arcade, and international food pavilion. Now, well, let's just say many shoppers have left the building, although the mall is about to open the first Ross Dress for Less store in Massachusetts, so maybe it'll have a comeback. But this was a really fun story, I think on a couple of different levels. It's almost like the music club, that people have such fondness for malls, even though many of them have outlived their usefulness at this point. But then to have somebody like Phoebe Bridgers come to town and actually go to the mall, which she's done because she's apparently dating Bo Burnham from Hamilton, so this is why they would be placed at the Liberty Tree Mall, was pretty exciting and interesting.
I love it when artists use local places, scenes, whatever, in songs. It just is very exciting. It also, on a practical side, drums up business. So people will go out and take a look at Liberty Tree Mall, if nothing else, just to see what she's talking about with the photo booth. And we've learned that they have 2, actually. But listen, I think the reason they're still open, they have a Marshall's, a Target, and those are anchor stores, a Home Depot. Those are big stores. And they have a mini mega church called Netcast, which seems to be an oxymoron if you're a mini mega church, but okay, whatever works.
We might have to visit to figure out how that works.
Yeah.
The reason why I still go to the Liberty Tree Mall is because they have a Total Wine, so I can make a slight detour on my way home on the North Shore and go to that. But anyway, Phoebe Bridgers, she's kind of got one of the biggest albums of the summer right now with this release. And kind of in an unlikely way, because she's a very understated. You can hear it in that song. She's very understated. She's not the biggest, most brash pop star out there. Very intimate music, but really pretty gorgeous. She's a part of the sort of quote unquote supergroup Boy Genius, which were amazing with Lucy Dacus and Julian Baker a couple of years ago. But this is a really beautiful album, and it's just a nice opportunity. And there's a lot of cameos of big name pop stars on this record. The producer Jack Antonoff of Bleachers, and everybody's favorite contemporary indie rocker, Cameron Winter from the band Geese, which is sort of the rock band that everybody's been talking about for the last year or two from Brooklyn. So, it's a big release, and it's just kind of fun that it's got this unusual local twist.
And Bo Burnham apparently co-wrote 7 of the songs
but
with her,
not the Liberty Tree,
but
right.
not this one.
Yeah. Yes.
But I also like just the way she's looking at this, because the mall is so symbolic in this country, especially of a certain time. And the whole social network of that time that was built around the mall and what it represented. Whole days were planned at the mall. Culinary excursions were planned at the mall. And we've just kind of seen it go away. And this is exactly what she's talking about, if this is to be a stand-in for some sort of relationship or something. But the vital parts, like the photo booth, are still there apparently. And I'm sure it's a very famous photo booth now. There are long lines for the photo booth.
Two of them, there too. I say somebody should get smart and have a concert there with her and get Total Wine to provide the adult beverages.
I think that's very smart. And apparently Bo Burnham is there quite a bit. He brought the New Yorker there.
Right.
He had one of his film openings, 8th grade, at the AMC at the Liberty Tree Mall. So forget the elephants that are on parade at Commonwealth Avenue now. Liberty Tree Mall is the place where it's at. Well, while Phoebe and Bo might be found romping around local malls, one celebrity couple has decided to forego the charms of an aging America in favor of the old country. One-time royals, Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, are relocating their family to the UK later this month after 6 years of sunny Southern California society. I love to always point out that they were one-time royals because they have walked away from it, and that this is part of the whole thing. They're not getting paid anymore to be royals, so this is where the lack of payment for security guards and etc. came into play. But many are speculating that King Charles's health is precarious. At least that's what Harry said recently, and saying he's not sure how much time his father has. So time is precious. So this could be among many reasons they're moving back to the UK.
Well, certainly. I mean, when they went back in 2022 for the Queen's funeral, he hadn't seen those kids. I mean, and nobody. So this is very important at a very fundamental level for a family. But I have to say, you know what this came across to me, and I said nobody can figure out why they decided to go back. It's so clear. This is what families are doing with young kids all around the country. Where shall the kids go to school? And the school decision drove this more than anything else, I believe. And so it sounds to me like they had a really hard conversation about, first of all, the way that the Brits do education, and also one of the things that the Brits are familiar with are royal kids going, or kind of royal adjacent kids going to school. So there's less hassle for them potentially in terms of worrying about security and people accosting them and not having an opportunity to sort of live a normal, quote unquote, as normal as you can be life. So that's my theory, and I think it's a good one.
I agree, Callie. Very good. I mean, there's a huge pull that happens when you have kids. My wife and I are from here, lived on the West Coast for 10 years, had 3 children that are all technically San Franciscans, But as soon as the third one was born, we hightailed it back here years ago at this point, and it was for family, you know. So I'm sure, like, whatever Harry said a year and a half ago or so, that, you know, I can never see myself moving back there. I mean, things change. You don't know how people's thinking changes. You don't know how the conversations go at their kitchen table. Of course, he wants to see more of his father if they can kind of continue to repair that relationship. And I just want to say really quickly that I'm so happy that that the Royals are Callie's jam, because they, you know, I would not contextualize myself as a Royal watcher. So thank you, Callie, for carrying this
you're
segment.
welcome. You're
Well,
welcome.
I just was interested in this from the standpoint of what would happen when they came here, because we talk about sometimes having royalty in America, whether it's Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce now, or back in the day it was the Kennedy family. People often say that was the closest thing that we had to a royal family. But when you had real ex-royals, or the Harry formerly known as Prince, coming to the United States, would it change? Would it spawn a whole thing? And I think from what we've learned, there was paparazzi, there was interest at the beginning, but there was never a mania around them being in Southern California. Perhaps that's for their ways they lived in Montecito.
Yes.
They're living in the same neighborhood as Gwyneth and Oprah and all of these other people who know how to keep people at bay. But there never seemed to be the mania that you see, the frenzy that you see in England. So they say they'll be outside of London, but just this morning, just as we were getting ready for the show, it was announced in London that Harry and Elton John and Liz Hurley and others have to pay up to £34.5 million because they lost a lawsuit against the press today. And so they now have to cover those costs because they couldn't prove that private investigators were listening on their calls, intercepting voicemails, going through documents. So this is the climate that they re-enter, so it's all kind of puzzling.
And what happens to Meghan's show? You know.
Well, I could have predicted that a
Well,
long time ago. I made my views on that show perfectly clear.
I think we all have, but my point is a lot of people have raised, how do they make a living, so to speak? I mean, they're not at the poorhouse. Come on. But I'm saying, you know, to be in their lifestyle, and it is real. That security issue is a real one. They have to pay for that, and now they have to pay for this lawsuit. And they got to pay for that school, because you know, like James, I have no kids, but I know what that schooling costs. So that's, you know, that's some serious cash outlay.
Well, they still have the Netflix deal because they moved here in part to become media stars. As we've talked about on this show, nothing really resonated. In fact, a lot of stuff was panned, including here on the Culture Show by me, because this show was a little wooden and awkward. That was the
it was bad.
Meghan Markle at home show.
Yes.
So, yeah, who knows where it goes from here.
Yeah, and how they'll be doing it. It'll be interesting. And it should be noted that a lot of the Brits, I think there's a general feeling that their work in Hollywood is crass. So that's not fully appreciated in the way that they could, to your point, Jared, sort of put themselves in a little womb of acceptance out in California. Listen, when they didn't have a house, Tyler Perry lent them his. I mean, this is the world they were living in. So
but if you want to talk about the Brits thinking that what they were doing in California was crass, I mean, speaking as a journalist, I mean, the news business in England is crass.
That's right.
You know, as Jared just said about this lawsuit, whether, you know, regardless of the outcome of it, it's a cutthroat business, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for them if they're able to seclude themselves enough, insulate themselves enough from that kind of spotlight.
And I'd be interested to see if they're going to back away from Meghan some. I'm predicting not, but you don't really want to mess with the mama and her kids now. It's one thing if you come for me, but you're coming for the kids, that's going to be a whole other situation. So something to watch.
Well, they also branded it Megxit, so now they're going to have to come up with, what do they call the return? We'll have that extra, yeah, exactly. Well, coming up, late night just got a lot rosier. Former talk show host Rosie O'Donnell spent the week guest hosting for Jimmy Kimmel, much to the chagrin of President Trump. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
From a European conflict zone,
driving north from Kyiv, the signs of war start to be more visible.
To hard times in Southeast Asia.
I meet a man who has been waiting in line for diesel for 6 days.
To the astonishing beauty of remote places.
My welcome to the waters off of East Greenland has come from 2 whales.
Let us take you there. Listen to the world.
this afternoon at 3 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And New Bedford Whaling Museum, presenting summer exhibits including Sailor's Valentines, Maritime Art from the Heart, Proteana, Susan Heidman, and Look Pleasant, Please, Early Portrait Photography in New Bedford, whalingmuseum.org. And Newbury Court, serving Concord, Massachusetts for 30 years as a not-for-profit continuing care retirement community dedicated to older adults. More at newburycourt.org. And the Vermont Cheese Council, creator of Vermont Cheese Week, September 13th through 20th, a statewide event featuring tastings, pairings, tours, and more. Learn more at vtcheese.com.
Breaking news, deep conversations, and the stories that matter to you. GBH News, always on the radio at 89.7, available on the GBH News YouTube channel and online at gbhnews.org.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review. I'm joined by Culture Show co-host Callie Crossley and contributor James Sullivan. We're going over the latest headlines, which includes ABC Late Night, where everything was coming up rosy this week.
Welcome to the Jimmy Kimmel Live show, and I am your guest host, Rosie O'Donnell. A special hello to those of you watching from home and from the White House. But I do have some bad news for President Teddy Roosevelt. That's all I'm going to say about you tonight, sweetheart. You got to realize it's time to hang up your wig and let Natalie tuck you in. Time to go nighty-night.
Well, this was a wild week. I mean, if anybody is going to fill in for Jimmy Kimmel, it's going to be Rosie O'Donnell because, of course, they're of like minds. But Rosie O'Donnell comes with this very, very loaded history because we know for 20 years Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell have been battling it out. They can make fun of it here. She can make fun of it here and make light of it, but she's talked about the bullying she felt. She's talked about the fact that this is part of the reason she moved to Ireland, a big, huge portion of the reason she moved to Ireland, especially with a child who identifies as binary, just didn't feel safe raising a family in the United States at this point, especially being such a visible target of the president. But she turned it on him. She, in addition to Teddy Roosevelt, she called him President Oompa J. Loompa, Velveto Corleone, Hungry Hypocrite, Orange Voldemort. I mean, she just, Mango Mussolini, she just let it rip this week. And so it raised a lot of questions just about what she was bringing to the debate. We can talk about ABC in a moment because there was more litigation there with the FCC. And then left people wondering if she's going to come back to the talk show format in some shape or form.
Well, people were really curious. Ratings for the first night, 1.87 million, and then 2.4 on YouTube. That's a whole other audience. So she was drawing them in. I'm sure there was some curiosity, and then people wanted to hang around and see the details of it because there are not that many people who are as brash as she was in her commentary and have the ability to say, I just don't care. I'm going to say whatever I want to say, and nobody can take my show away from me or whatever. And if you want to complain about it, complain about me. So it's been really fascinating to watch. And she's right. All the people in the White House were watching. So she got a big audience.
You know what's interesting about those numbers that Callie just cited is that not that long ago, those numbers would have sounded minuscule. And those were the biggest numbers of any other guest host that during Kimmel's summer vacation. So that's interesting. That's of note. But, you know, the White House managed to, jump right in and take the bait. And one White House spokesperson whose name I don't think I recognize. They have quite a few of them at this point, I think. Called Rosie a nasty woman and a total slob. I mean, again, it wasn't very long ago that kind of lack of decorum would have been, a huge issue across the country and something we all would have talked about for weeks. Mm-hmm. And nobody's mentioned that. That's how the White House responded to her. But Rosie did say something like, the fact that the leader of the free world is still so fixated on me is quote unquote very trippy, and I'm sure it is. I'm sure
Yes.
it feels very weird that she knows that he's watching, and calculating his late night posts instantaneously compared to what she's saying about him.
Well, it's interesting that she employed that psychology, that she knew exactly how to bait him, as you say. But this is a feud that goes back 20-something years, because way back when she was calling him out on morality issues. That's what she meant by the hungry hypocrite, as she called him, because he was criticizing other people for their morals as he's moving from affair to affair, or divorcing wives over affairs, and we'll just leave it at that. So this is not something that's inherently political, because this was about character. But to look at who, I went back and watched a number of the segments, and there is a reason that she was such a successful talk show host, because she revisited her format. She had all the figurines on her desk. She was a big champion for Broadway this week, with Schmigadoon and Kat's Jellicle Ball being featured on the show, because remember when she had her show in New York, she was a huge champion for Broadway, and she actually made quite a difference. She drove ticket sales because she's just inherently a legitimate fan of all that. But also outside of some of the barbed remarks, there's also a warmth and interest and charm that comes with her. So I think she has in fact, she addressed it last night, she has every intention of returning to Ireland and going back to the life that she's been enjoying. So she doesn't have plans for a talk show, but I'm sure she would get many offers off of this. And she's been talking about going back to The View.
Yeah, well, I mean, she can make guest appearances and still have a great amount of impact as well. I do think you were referencing earlier this lawsuit that ABC is in, and if you think about it, it allows them to stand behind her and let her be the mouth of, "Are you kidding me?" and throw all the nasty stuff out, and they can stand behind her and say, "We're professional in responding to you and this lawsuit that we say is wrong, blah, blah, blah." And I thought this is kind of interesting.
And we should clarify, this is a lawsuit targeting the FCC, and what they're claiming is an overstretch of regulation and overreach of regulation, which is a sea change from where ABC was a few years ago, when they were basically backing down when the administration went after George Stephanopoulos. So make of that what you will.
Yes.
And interesting that Disney is obviously part of the ABC team, and that of all companies to be standing up. It's just interesting to me that Disney is behind ABC on this.
Well, as we always talk about, culture is a sea change. Culture reflects the change in the country, change in society, so we'll follow this. Well, we now travel from a soundstage to Science Park. If you've been near or on the Charles River lately, you've noticed the Museum of Science has a new look. It will debut a new $100 million plus wing in October. It's a modern multi-use space built for high-tech presentations, artistic performances, and programming meant to be seen the world over. Speaking of seeing, I've only seen this from the Esplanade or Memorial Drive when I'm running, and I see this beautiful new glass facade. But James Sullivan, you have been in the building. You reported on this for the Boston Globe. Tell us about it.
So I went actually 2 years ago when they first announced an initial gift from Bloomberg and the plans. Well, I think the gift had been announced earlier than that. Mike Bloomberg, obviously the financier and former mayor of New York, has, for folks who don't know, grew up in Medford, and consistently throughout his life has credited the Museum of Science for opening his mind and stoking his curiosity. He loves the place, and so he gave like a $50 million grant to the museum about 10 years ago, and they just announced the gift, the dollar amount of the gift this week, which is $155 million to open this new wing, which has been under construction for the last couple of years. So I did get to go a couple of years ago to see the plans, and now I got to go walk through this week to see what the room is actually going to look like. And it's pretty spectacular, actually. It's sort of completely state-of-the-art, high-tech sound, lighting, LED screens, immersion technology, 3D projection mapping. So the scientific presentations that they're going to be able to present there are going to be pretty spectacular. And they're also talking about doing other, sort of cultural events, and it would be a great space for live music. And they sort of know all of that, and they want their doors to be open to the community. And I'll say one more thing. The view itself is spectacular. Like those of you who knew the old Museum of Science, it literally had like just a stone wall facing the Charles. And now that's been completely blown out. It's floor to ceiling, a very big building, 10,000 square feet. I forget, but
it's 10,000 square feet.
10,000 square feet. Thank you. Floor to ceiling glass, so you have this spectacular view from inside of both the Boston and Cambridge skylines. And the way President Tim Ritchie of the Museum of Science talks about it, he's like, we want all of that in here. We want all of that energy, all of that intellectual capacity in here. And we want to be the forum for all of that and sort of helping people stoke their curiosity for all things science.
Well, if people want to get a sense of how it feels, anybody who's here at the library or watching us stream right now, William Rahn Associates is the architectural firm who designed this renovation of the library where we're standing right now with the floor-to-ceiling windows. And remember, in the old building, we had big plinths, stone plinths that were in front of us, so it's access to the street. Also did the Seiji Ozawa Hall and the Cambridge Public Library.
So a couple things. It's really difficult to walk through the Museum of Science and just not be energized in general because there's so much going on. And I've always appreciated those programs that are specific to the kids. But I have to say, having been a part of some of discussions for adults inside, I'm just imagining now in this space, what could be added in terms of just the vibe of it, because they have some great discussions there. And I've enjoyed that, so it just can only add to that. And the other thing to point out is, okay, so he grew up in Medford, so he has a personal connection to it. But the man does not have to give you $155 million to do a renovation. And the thinking about people who are building and rebuilding something for not just themselves, but for so many generations afterwards, slow clap, big clap for Mike Bloomberg, because this is amazing.
Getting great applause here at the library.
Yes.
And I just love the evolution in thinking, too, because, yes, it's about seeing the butterflies, and, yes, it's about going to the planetarium, but it's also these great conversations. I am really excited to get into space and see this latest technology and see how that will be deployed, especially knowing how the Science Museum has leaned into culture. They've had Isabella Rossellini over there. They've had David Byrne over there. They keep finding ways into science through these titans of popular culture who also have their own scientific interests and proclivities. So this should be really fun, and I think it's also going to be an event space. So it'll be one of the most there can't possibly be another view like this because it faces straight down the Charles. Where else would you see that?
It's going to be fabulous.
And they're addressing so many of all of the major issues, scientific issues of our time, and that's biological science. AI, for instance, so I mean, they're addressing all that stuff with an open mind, and they want all of the visitors to do that. So they're not shying away from the hard questions about ethical science, but they're giving people a space to think about it.
We should mention that I guess it's a soft launch October 10th, and then later in the month it's open to everybody else October 28th.
If you go to the museum on October 10th, you'll be able to go check out the new space, but it will be a quote-unquote soft launch, and then I think the 28th is sort of more their gala.
And Mike Bloomberg might come.
Is expected to be there.
Yeah, and James, as you pointed out, this is, as far as people can tell, this is the largest gift that's ever been given to a science museum in the United States. So we're very fortunate here. Well, speaking of AI, down the block at MIT, a new study finds that the more data artificial intelligence is fed, the less likely an AI-generated image can be traced back to its original source materials. Known as attribution decay, it promises to present major copyright complications. This is a really, really frustrating thing, I think, in some regard, but perhaps not totally, because basically what MIT has figured out is just what I said, that if you do a deep dive into the various generations of the creation of an image, you really are not going to be able to prove, at least through data, that they stole the image from, let's say, a painter working in Swampscott, Mass, who was doing this in her studio, and AI captured it because she put it on Instagram, and AI canvassed it, and that's how they created their images. You won't be able to do that. That's troubling to a lot of people as these copyright lawsuits are starting to make their way through the courts.
Troubling?
Well, I'll say why I think maybe it couldn't be troubling too, but we'll get to that.
I think it's horrifying that you can't identify it. I mean, we're at the point now where we're finally in a space where there are some entities, forced or otherwise. I'm thinking about Spotify saying, okay, we're going to tell you which songs and artists, quote unquote, on our site are AI identities as opposed to real people. I mean, you got to start somewhere. I mean, people are mad about it, and they did that not out of the goodness of their heart. They did that because people were tired of being fooled.
And that seems like a very low bar to
I
let people know.
That.
But I mean, you go ahead. Sorry.
But my point is that we're at a point where we're demanding this. That consumers are aware enough about it to say, wait a minute, was that AI? And I don't like the fact that you didn't tell me. So this just gives license to everybody to just go wild. Because how would I be able to say this, in fact, is AI? This is very scary to me.
I mean, this might be an unscientific thought about this subject, but I mean, it seems pretty obvious that, it's such a horrible phrase, attribution decay. And if you think about it, old school, zine people who put out, zines, self-made magazines or whatever, obviously there was attribution decay. The more times you photocopy something, the less quality you get out of the more recent copies. So it seems obvious.
But in that case, you could see the deterioration.
Of course.
So the point here is you cannot see.
Right.
So with data. So this is what I mean when I'm maybe being too Pollyanna-ish about this, but we've seen copyright lawsuits throughout the decades, and so long before there was this kind of technology, before there was AI. Say you had a song that you were trying to... Bette Midler had a famous copyright infringement case, I think it was in the 1980s, when somebody created a television advertisement using one of her songs.
Tom Waits, same thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And so a jury had to sit there and listen to it with their human ears and make a human judgment about the derivation of that. And I believe in Bette Midler's case, she won. So I think at the end of the day, even if this data, even if MIT comes out and says the data is not going to tell you where this was sourced, I think you can probably tell to some degree and make your own judgment with your own eyes. So there's nothing to say that this is going to be discounted. Of course, high-powered attorneys are going to try to drive juries to believe that they can only believe the technology, but this is a moment where we have to stand up as human beings on this planet and say we have senses and we're pretty good at it, actually.
And actually, the fact that they're doing this study is, fodder for the lawyers if they need to sue. Obviously, we have a study that shows that you can no longer attribute some of these things, and we need to correct that. So hopefully the legislation will, legislators will step up at some point to, create some more guardrails for this.
I think the bottom line is we're behind in this. We're, and I don't know how we catch up. That's my concern.
We just all have to be paying attention. And remember who we are. That's the big thing. All right, well, it's now time for our weekend preview with a roundup of our recommendations of upcoming arts and culture happenings. Callie, what's yours?
The Greenway Food Truck Festival. I love this. All kinds of food trucks down on Rose Wharf Plaza, Color Commons, Rings Fountain, and the Greenway Carousel. There's a State Street and Mercantile Street and Milk Street and State Street, and between India Street and Milk Street, and between High Street and India Street. There's going to be food trucks, a lot of activities for kids. It's going to be fabulous, and so I am thinking it's one of the places that I really, really, really think are fun for families, and particularly in this late summer.
James, what's yours?
So I'm very excited to go see opening night of Rhinoceros over at the ART tonight. I know you've had them on as guests.
Yes.
Some of our great actors, Paul Giamatti and John Turturro. After a week of previews, I did a story a little earlier this summer about how there's been a preponderance of Eugene Ionesco productions in the Boston area this year. The Hub Theater did Bald Soprano by Ionesco, and Arlequin did Delirium, which is based on Ionesco's Frenzy for Two, and I don't think it's any secret why all of these theater of the absurd plays are coming back around right now. So I'm excited to see how Rhinoceros joins the conversation.
If people need a little plot refresher, Rhinoceros is about a small village where people begin turning into rhinoceroses. I keep wanting to say rhinoceri, but I know it's rhinoceroses.
Technically, I think you can say either.
Yeah. Can you?
He just did.
I just did.
And the question becomes, why are so many people just suddenly following the herd? And it was written after fascist regimes, after World War II. Well, the one I want to direct people to is Unbound, which is a very unconventional show at the Museum of Fine Arts. It's actually called Picasso, Miro, Dali Unbound, and it's unconventional for a reason, because a lot of people don't know that there was a period of time where artists produced these artist books. And well, we know what artist books are, and they're still made today, where an artist will make one book, and that's their piece of art. But there was a period throughout the 20th century where these artists, among especially other Spanish artists, were making small editions of these books, and they were unbound. So you would have Picasso working with a poet, for example, and he would render the lyrics of this poetry, and he would create the images. So this is where so many of Picasso's prints come from, actually, are these books. And others did this, and then they began to get more creative. There's one wild example of what Dali did. He went over the top, as you might imagine, with this massive book and this steel or kind of metal binding. But this takes you through this history that not a lot of people know about, but where some of our great artists come from. So that just opened at the Museum of Fine Arts.
Jared, I forgot to say it was Saturday for the Food Truck Festival.
At the Greenway.
Yeah, at the Greenway.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, that is all for this edition of The Culture Show. Thank you again to Callie Crossley and James Sullivan. Callie Crossley is a Culture Show co-host and host of GBH's Under the Radar. What do you have on Under the Radar this week?
We're talking pop culture and 2 reboots. Yay! Different World is coming back with all kinds of fabulousness. September the 24th, the trailer just dropped. People are all excited. And there's a very interesting one on Netflix, a new adaptation of Little House on the Prairie. You know, we've heard so much about it, all the criticism. This is the first one that includes a parallel storyline of members of the Osage Nation. So you have the full story of the Indians who were there at the time of the writing of the book and the period of when when Laura Ingalls Wilder's family was there in the fictionalized form. So gotten great reviews. Members of the Osage Nation are thrilled. I'm very happy. Second part, dating on the autism spectrum. So we have folks who are dating and programs to help them pick up on the social cues they need. It's a really fabulous programs and story.
As always, sounds like a very riveting show. Well, of course, we've also been joined by James Sullivan, journalist and author specializing in popular culture and Americana. Great to see you, as always. Tune in Monday for renowned photographer Sally Mann on her new book, a laugh-out-loud, funny, irreverent, and refreshingly practical guide on the process of being an artist, plus Jeremy Sewell, the acclaimed chef behind Row 34, on his latest cookbook about delivering deliciousness at home, that is. Thanks to Craig LeMoult for our Culture Cast, our engineers Dave Goodman, the BPL technical and logistics crew, Maddie Geyer, Pat Lally, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, and Juan Jose Cadena. Thanks to the Lennox Hotel, the Newsfeed Cafe, to our security team, Darius and Derek. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here at the Boston Public Library with us today. We love seeing you. I'm Jared Bowen. Have an art-filled weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.